It's 5/21, 2019. That's a Tuesday. It's also a very odd day because all the numbers of today are odd, except for the 2 in 2019.
But 21. We're really going to count the individual digits?
I'm not really sure about the 0 either. It's probably not odd, probably not even.
More importantly, we don't know where Krista is. So don't comment and say, "Where's Krista?"
Because we don't even.
You know who knows? Krista. And today we're going to do government and social media news, as we often do. Because sometimes it works out that you can put those together.
Oh no. I touched the mic.
And instead of starting off with some sort of U.S. politician, because this leads into a story about a U.S. politician, we're going to start talking about Huawei.
Huawei is willing to sign a no-spy pact with governments, Chairman. We actually have a lot of Huawei stories this week because there have been a lot of happenings in the EU and a lot of happenings here in the U.S. So this seems, I mean, I don't know. I'm not the CIA, obviously. So, but it seems legit.
Isn't this kind of like signing a no murder pact? Like, you're already not supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
So why would we need additional? What is the penalty above and beyond the regular spying penalty here? It doesn't make any sense.
Well, what if there are security vulnerabilities that are incompetence and not malice?
Again, what guarantee does this give you? It's ridiculous. But I guess some people might feel that way. But as I said earlier, the lead-in is one man who does not agree with that, Mr. Donald Trump.
Trump's administration hits China's Huawei with the 1-2 punch. So not only is Huawei banned from participating in U.S. communications network, we talked about that, but U.S. companies are banned from exporting their gear to Huawei.
Yeah.
And affiliates. There's like 63 affiliates of Huawei. U.S. companies are also not allowed to sell those people's stuff.
And they have a big list, which probably a lot of U.S. companies are currently dealing with.
Yeah.
They're going to have to stop. And China, not happy about it.
Yeah.
Not
well,
happy one bit.
I mean, it would be like the U.S. equivalent would be China doing this with, say, like Cisco or Apple.
Which they probably will.
Foreshadowing.
Trade war. Espionage war.
And not the fun kind of trade war like I used to play back on the BBSs.
Yeah. They say that trade wars come first and then shooting wars come after.
Yeah.
That's a pretty common thing. And another thing coming out of the White House, Donald Trump, as we all know, much like you, addicted to Twitter.
His addiction might be a little worse than mine. Like, if it was a meth equivalent, he would probably already be losing his teeth.
He has more exposure than you.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
So I think the addiction is kind of a linear curve.
Based on exposure.
He's just in that, like, fentanyl level.
His kidneys are shutting down and he doesn't even realize
He
it.
doesn't care. But he loves it, and the people that support him have been systematically eliminated from Twitter. I mean, that's objectively true. People who are big Trump supporters get kicked off a lot. And you might say that's because they're hateful or whatever, but he doesn't seem to think so. So he's taken a step to protect them.
The White House has launched a tool to report censorship on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter. If you suspect political bias has caused an action to be taken against you, share your story with President Trump. So I guess Alex Jones is the first person in line here, right?
How many of these do you think he'll read himself?
0. Like, less than 0.
Now, they do point out here that they go to great pains to say, we're not necessarily going to do anything about this. This is just for you to tell us about it. So it's not like you're not reporting a crime or anything. And they might ignore all of it. Maybe it's just to make you feel better. But
I definitely don't want to lose the ability to remove idiots from a platform. Because, like, if I owned Twitter and I ran Twitter and it's like, oh, this person is an idiot or they're making trouble, banned.
well, but that's the argument, right? Once you become something like Twitter, does it become free speech?
Twitter owns the platform, but is there another platform?
Well, I mean, that's the law. That's probably how it should work. But a lot of people disagree with that because they're saying that it's kind of like the argument against requiring you to have a Facebook account or something like that. You know, like, is it a big enough part of society that kicking you off of it is kind of like shutting you out.
It is going to be interesting because I always think about cities and sidewalk law because the public has if you own a building in a city, the public has a right of way to the sidewalk in front of your building, but you technically own that land, but you have to keep it up. But the public has certain rights to be able to use the sidewalk. Now, the public can't use your entire building, but they can use the sidewalk.
But I should be able to shoot somebody if their dog poops on my property.
Also, okay under U.S. law. Not really.
Should be.
You get a tort, though. I mean, you could take action against somebody who allows their dog to poop on their lawn, but not an escalating action.
I don't think any court would actually take that.
No, I mean,
prosecutor would.
Oh, like legal? No, well, it's a civil.
Oh, you want to go? Nah. I'd say a judge would throw that out as wasting his time or her. Anyway, that's the big argument, and I think we're moving toward laws getting changed because of that. Because everybody, the big tech companies, I think, are the big scapegoat. I mean, they're awful. Let's not say they're not awful, and they are, using our data and making millions off of it. But they're going to be the scapegoat for the 2020 election.
Is there an equivalent public right-of-way law for companies like Twitter? That is an interesting question.
I think there's probably going to be. I don't know. But then they did start the alternative Twitter, which, there was some white nationalism and racism stuff, and then Cloudflare shut them down, right?
Yeah.
So. And
then they were like, we probably shouldn't have done that because that's a slippery slope.
So, yeah, but then you get into that point, it's like, okay, you kicked me off your platform, I'm going to go create my own platform, but then everybody is shutting me down in every avenue. Like Alex Jones, they took his monetization, they took his payment processing, they took him off of everything. So how much is too much?
You know what the fix is? To make sure that the citizenry is intellectually equipped to point out an idiot. That's the fix.
But then they would have to point it themselves. Nobody's going to do that.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
One thing, I think, if there's one issue that both sides of the aisle and all of Americans can agree on, except for a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage, is robocalls. We all hate them. I don't think anybody's like, man, I love robocalls. It makes me feel alive.
The elderly.
I got one in Mandarin yesterday.
Huh, I wonder why.
How did I get on that list? Anyway, Mr. Ajit Pai has finally stepped in.
The FCC has announced action and a legal framework to fight robocalls. This looks fairly comprehensive. You could do a whitelist if you want with your carrier, although I see kind of a dark side here because your carrier can whitelist, like you can go in and add numbers to your list that are allowed to receive calls, plus also whatever has been whitelisted by your carrier. So what would stop your carrier from forming a deal with, say, like the Hilton hotel chain and allow the Hilton hotel chain to do robocalls to you?
Could happen. They also had one solution where only your contact list was available to you through calls. But often I get calls from people who, like, I only need to call from them one time.
Yeah.
Because I'm dealing with something, and that would make that very difficult.
The Google, on the Google phones, the screening app is fairly effective at stopping robocalls, where it's just like, hey, I'm screening my call. Can you prove you're a human? And
well, that's the other thing. Each carrier is supposed to have a system in place to communicate with the other carriers and say, yes, this is real, which is probably the best way to do it. Either way, any improvement is good, right?
I would like to see just a rule in there that says that carriers are not allowed to sell access. Like, they're not allowed to form a pact with a company to guarantee that their calls will complete with you.
Yeah, well, that would get stripped out.
Yeah.
Right before it got signed by a powerful lobby. You'd just be putting money in the pockets of the lobbyists and the politicians.
See, this is why you need us. We're lobbyists. You got to, otherwise you're going to have crap like this you got to deal with.
5G continues to roll along. We have a story in the business section about 5G and how it's maybe improving. And it's, was it Chicago where they're running it?
Yeah, there's a trial, I think, running there.
But there is an issue with 5G that it seems like everybody knew about, but just kind of ignored because 5G must go ahead at all costs, right?
5G is likely to mess with weather forecasts, but the FCC auctions the spectrum anyway. So, yeah, it turns out that there's some frequency overlap. Actually, scroll down. There's a chart. There's a handy chart.
It's 23.8 or something. Like, water vapor is... Oh, this is from a comment. Water vapor is 23.8 or something like that.
And this is for 24 gigahertz.
So the satellite's literally look at the Earth and look for 23.8 or whatever the number is. And that's like, if they see it, they're like, oh, that's moisture. That's water. So they're able to detect water that way. But if you have a 24 gigahertz signal, then that's basically it's like always broadcasting water at the satellite. And we use this for weather prediction, which is super important.
Womp womp.
Especially if you're the Navy, for example, and you have vessels at sea, which could be sunk by...
You need some deployment operations.
Yeah. So, yeah, that could be a problem, but let's just ignore it till it happens, right?
That would be the commercial way. I mean, that's capitalism, right? Allow the private industry to solve that problem.
That's not capitalism. Yeah, that's the FCC's auctioning that off. Capitalism would have no FCC. Facial recognition. It's a big thing we've got going on. The cops are using it. Pretty much all the surveillance cameras and stuff are using it.
The cops are using it in hilarious ways, as we will find out in the security section.
They had the story. I can't remember what kind of business it was, but somebody robbed them, and they just gave the security footage to the cops, and they ran it through the facial recognition. So you're never protected from it because the cops are going to be using it. Anyway, San Francisco, on the forefront of hipster lawmaking, have decided to make up their own mind about it.
CNN Business says that San Francisco has just banned facial recognition technology. It's a blanket ban. It's gone. Not allowed to be used by law enforcement.
Except on the federal level.
Womp womp.
Federal level law enforcement can use facial recognition technology. If you're using it now, you got to tell them how you're using it and how you're storing it and what you're going to do about deleting it and stuff like that. If you want to use it in the future, you have to go through a committee. So, cops are not happy about it. They like it. I don't know how I feel about it. I mean, it's probably good that we have less, but you think it'll really stop them?
I was reading some other, not for this week's news, but just some stuff in general about face recognition. And one of the proponents of face recognition is like initially they were staunchly against it because of the dark side and the lack of accuracy and that kind of thing. But then there was somewhere that they did a study. There was a town that had a bunch of crime, and they found that like a very, very tiny percentage of the population was controlling most of the like robbery and larceny and, you know, like street crime type stuff. And once they eliminated 5 or 6 key players in that, it went down like 70%.
Well, I'm sure that's true everywhere.
So that's like, oh yeah, face recognition will solve that problem. I'm not sure I believe that, but it was an interesting take on that. They compared it to like message board troublemakers. It's like, you know, 0.01% of your message board users are the troublemakers, and then that stirs up other people that otherwise wouldn't be troublemakers, and then it snowballs from there.
But that also uncovers very unpleasant demographic truths about those things.
Yeah.
And people don't like to hear that, so they blame the technology.
Supreme Court says Apple will have to face App Store monopoly lawsuit.
Monopoly? I guess, so a monopoly means that there's no competition, and you eliminate competition and make it so that there can't ever be competition. Now, see, would that apply to the App Store? I think it would.
I thought of another way to look at this. So suppose you got a Netflix subscription, and and you want to do this Netflix subscription through iTunes. Well, Netflix is going to have to charge you 30% more to earn the same margin if you just subscribe directly through Netflix. So the Supreme Court kind of has a point here. Apple also, this is, you know, they wanted the developers to bring suit, not the end users. But the end users have cause here because if Apple doesn't prevent Netflix from offering subscriptions directly, I guess, but they have in the past.
But Apple also they make a lot of decisions, and they cite protection of the user in the App Store. But when the lawsuits come, they're like, no. That's not us. That's the developer.
Yeah.
So you can't really have it both ways.
After seeing Apple's legal maneuvering in the Huawei case, they're by default the most amoral company ever.
Mark Zuckerberg says, hold my beer.
Yeah. You think he can have beer, or will that like short circuit?
He probably has like a some sort of green drink instead. That lubricates his parts. Speaking of facial recognitions, wow, should have put these two stories together. that was an oversight. But the NYPD, unlike San Francisco, uses facial recognition all the time. But they have a dark secret.
That was what I alluded to, because the NYPD has used altered images in its facial recognition system, new documents show. I thought this was going to come in security, though. The really hilariously awesome thing about this is somebody was mugged or something, and they were like, well, the guy kind of looked like Woody Harrelson. So they uploaded a picture of Woody Harrelson and tracked the guy down. But it's like,
Now, they claim that they wouldn't go just on facial recognition, that they would use facial recognition
to narrow it down and then just pick out a random guy.
Right. But then there's even more disturbing thing. So if you look, they show, this thing, like this is the original photo that they have of somebody, and then they will digitally change it. And sometimes they'll use another mouth. Like they keep,
You can't easily
So this is just a stock mouth. And it's like, oh, maybe it's this guy. But they're working with a third mouth.
Yeah.
So that's disturbing, especially if you're the guy whose mouth they're using, right? Because you have some non-trivial chance of being caught up in that.
That's a fun thing to explain to clients is they're like, can you Photoshop it so this person's mouth is different? Or from a different side, they're looking a different way. I'm like, that's not how Photoshop works. Yeah.
It's like that terrible made-for-TV movie Knight Rider 2000 where Kit misidentified James Doohan. That was bad. That was really bad.
A lot of people are going to be able to relate to that.
I've never seen that movie.
It's really
Most
obscure.
of the population has never seen that. It's San Francisco, when you look at it in that light, maybe they've got a point because it shows the dark side of if you are in law enforcement, and this is not really a condemnation of law enforcement, it's just human nature. You're going to take any kind of shortcut you can to get your job done, right? You're going to try to be efficient. So it's like, listen, if I got to fudge the numbers a little bit, I'll bring that guy in. If he's innocent, I'll just let him go, right?
We're going to bring in Woody Harrelson and question him. I mean, obviously, but
That's the correct path to go
And then
down.
we're all going to get selfies with him afterwards. And everybody's going to be happy.
Except for Woody Harrelson.
We've covered this story before, but there's been some new developments. This is the story about so the laws should be available to the people. Obviously, if you're going to follow the laws, you need to know the laws. But the one thing that law firms do is they annotate those laws, and the annotations are used in legal decisions. But they're also a copyright.
Accused of terrorism for putting legal materials online. Yes, the prosecutor has said that this is a form of terrorism because this guy wants to publish those annotations.
It seems like the correct thing if you're going to go after it would be copyright, not terrorism. But terrorism does get you more headlines.
Yeah, I'm not sure who this puts in terror except that one law firm that the state hires that has the copyright. But so the argument is annotations are not the law, but they are used in determining the law.
The context.
Understanding
the meaning.
And they talk about in law school, they actually will teach you, hey, don't interpret it for yourself. Go to the annotations, look at previous court decisions, and look at what has been written about these. Because everybody in the cases, the judge, everybody's going to read that, and they're going to take it into account. So it's part of the legal system.
But non-standard interpretations is how we've got this new hipster things like the FISA court and warrantless surveillance. How else, if you can't just DIY on the interpretation, how are you supposed to do an end run around the laws?
Maybe that's their end game. Just drive down those pesky annotations.
Listen, we need to obscure the meanings of these words. These smart people are using our own words against us. We just need to change the meaning of the words.
Or just hide all of the prior case law.
And Wendell, you've been known to use your phone while walking.
Constantly.
Mm-hmm.
You've been known to use your phone while driving.
I'm trying to cut down on that.
Eating.
Yes.
Yeah, eating.
Computing.
Yes.
Conference calling.
Oh, yeah.
Client face-to-face meetings.
Pooping.
Oh, everybody does that. You're not alone there.
But who takes your phone into the bathroom?
Look, Krista, everybody.
I don't do that. I get my business done and I go.
Miss High and Mighty.
Listen, you need to eat more fiber and get that shit done.
I guarantee you, Wendell's bathroom visits are 10% pooping and 90% twittering.
And then it's like, oh wait, I was done 20 minutes ago.
My legs are numb. Anyway, let's get back on track here.
Level 1 TMI.
If you were to go to New York, you would be in trouble.
New York is considering fining pedestrians for texting while crossing. So, okay, but this is saying that even just using your phone, like doing anything with your phone in your hands while crossing is, a fine.
Yeah, and so they cite a lot of people get run over in New York, as you might imagine with that insane traffic.
There's that horrible picture there.
So some people are saying that we're victim blaming because is it always the driver's fault? I don't know if it's always the driver's fault because there are times when the pedestrian shouldn't be there, and they'll do it. I mean, here, especially because our city's kind of small, people don't bother with crosswalks. Even on the larger roads, they'll just stroll right out into heavy traffic. And most of the time, it's because of methamphetamine.
We're walking the road.
Now, if I hit a meth head, is it my fault? I don't think so.
Excuse you, they're on Suboxone.
Suboxone is opiate suppression.
Shh, it's fine.
Anyway, interesting law. One thing it would do a lot of? Revenue generation. Because people are going to ignore it.
New York definitely needs that.
Yeah. And then I'm sure that they're going to take a page out of China's book and do like the facial recognition camera jaywalking.
Auto fine.
Phone. Yeah.
Just automatically fine. It just automatically takes it out of your account.
Well, you'll get a text message while you're walking with your phone to let you know that.
Your car has been impounded. Your car has been crushed into a cube. Your cube is now impounded.
Now, this next story, we're here in coal country. A lot of you don't know what Kentucky's famous for. Yeah, there's the chicken and the horses, but also
bourbon.
Coal. Lots of coal, or at least it used to be like that. The Obama administration kind of stamped it out. But so we have a lot of ex-coal miners here, and it's also true of West Virginia. And some people, a little myopically, I think, decided, you know what? If you're a coal miner, you could become a programmer, right? Those are two. That's a career that you could transition between seamlessly. Maybe not.
West Virginians.
Oh, look what you've done.
West Virginians were promised coding jobs in Appalachia. Now they say it was a fraud. So this is a story mainly about a company called Mind Mines. Yeah.
Like coal mine.
Really just rolls off the tongue. Easy to put into a URL bar.
It was supposed to be a 16-week code boot camp kind of a thing. And it was done as a nonprofit, but a for-profit company was involved, and they would get a bunch of people and have them work on client projects, and they would kind of pay them, but then later you would actually pay to be a part of the boot camp course, or there were scholarships. So there's a lot of really shady stuff going on.
There was a lot of government money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, nobody has had really good success with this. The journalist only found one person that had graduated, and they are now working delivery.
Well, they promised 100% job placement. They are at 0%.
Yeah.
So.
Well, they only found one person who'd actually graduated from, quote unquote, graduated from the program.
Well, they also mentioned that the people teaching it weren't qualified themselves. Mm-hmm. And then once you got one class through, they were expected to teach the next class. Although they were taught by non-qualified.
Hey, that sounds like a pyramid scheme.
And what they would do is once you went through the course, you would be given jobs within their company, which was the for-profit arm. But also, they interviewed some of the people who went through it, and they were like, they used Ruby. So I guess they were doing CMS projects mostly, probably. And the person was like, every time I would go to the teacher with a problem, they'd just be like, Google it. And I got the impression they had no idea what they were doing. So
neat. And it's not to say that it was a bad idea. I think that there's a certain percentage of coal miners that could be retrained for something else. But I don't think 16 weeks is enough time to get productive.
But it's not 100%. It's probably not 25%.
Well, and the issue too is even if you get a job, and let's say you can't work remotely, how many of those people are going to want to leave the house that they built or have in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky or Virginia or wherever?
No, I think they had an office there.
Really?
like locally.
Yeah, the article
I guess if it
said
was in
that
Virginia, that
they
makes
were
sense, or
moving
West
from
Virginia.
town to town. Like the article said, they're currently in Logan, West Virginia, which is an especially hard hit mining town that's no longer about mining.
You're going to get comments about that. Chicago. We've talked about how corrupt Chicago is. And the answer is hopelessly so. And one of the problems that they have is tax revenue because people are leaving at a rapid pace because of said corruption and because they waste all the money. And so they instituted this one a while back, but they're finally taking some money.
Chicago becomes the first city to collect the Netflix tax. I remember we reported on this and made fun of Chicago for being hilariously corrupt, but they've collected $2 million.
Yeah, and this is
Stupid
not
Chicago.
It's not just Netflix. That's
Sony
like
and some other companies.
Nickname. It's not actually called that, but any kind of online streaming. No, it wasn't Chicago, but was it Pittsburgh or Philadelphia? They were doing the video game tax.
Yeah, you know who else Chicago dinged? That was Eventbrite, of all people, like the event management company.
Well, listen, they're bleeding out. They got to take money any way they can. So yeah. So if you live in Chicago, then these companies on your account are paying extra. And I don't think Netflix is passing it through yet, are they?
I don't think so.
But
Well, I'm sure they'll raise the price
they
again.
will, yeah.
Yeah, they definitely
Or
will.
they'll just raise it and let everybody pay Chicago's tax, which
Yeah.
that's crap.
Time to cancel Netflix.
I do need to cancel my Netflix. I keep forgetting, which
What-
is what they want.
What if you get a VPN from Chicago to somewhere else and then watch Netflix? Like, what if you are watching
billing address.
What if you watch Netflix on a remote computer with the remote computer's billing address? And I don't know.
It's the billing address.
Could you just lie about your billing address?
Yeah, if you know, like if you could get,
Online PO box.
if you have family that lives somewhere else.
Yeah.
Sure, why not? And Netflix doesn't do paper billing anyway, right?
Yeah.
Would they even ever figure it out if you used a fake address?
Probably not.
As long as you're paying the bill.
I guess it's
Although-
got to match the credit card too.
Oh, you're right. I bet it's the credit card address.
Why would anybody ever want to live in Chicago?
I mean,
What
there's
if you?
stuff to do in Chicago.
But what
I
if you
mean,
get gift
You
cards?
could just go visit.
Oh yeah, the Netflix gift cards.
Netflix gift cards, fake address. That's how you beat. Of course, they're not passing it through, but if they ever do, just mentally note Netflix gift cards, fake address. That's how you'll beat that.
Neat.
In the UK, they have this ability to hack you. The government, pretty much with impunity, gets to hack you. And previously, when people were like, hey, you shouldn't be able to hack me, I'm going to sue you, they said, no, we're the government. You can't sue us. But maybe a little ray of sunshine.
UK hacking powers can be challenged in court, a judge has ruled. UK spies are no longer to skip court if their choices are considered unlawful. So
Judge
nice.
found dead. Killed by spies.
Polonium. Now they talk about obviously the hackers, government hackers are very upset about this, and they're like, "This is outrageous. This is ridiculous." But I think one of the big hurdles here is that last part: if the choices are considered unlawful, because you're going to have to find another sympathetic judge to make that consideration,
And after
then,
they kill the first one, to send a message.
yeah, that's going to be a chilling effect.
I'd watch that movie.
But hey, that's kind of good, I guess. And maybe some more good news about hacking.
Ooh, GozNym cybercrime gang, which stole millions, has been busted. The BBC News has the article about the takedown and the stuff that went into it and all this kind of stuff. So this was a crime gang, like a crime syndicate or whatever. They collected $100 million from this thing,
It was
which
all
is
about
crazy.
getting in and getting access to your banking information. And they did it with a dropper. So they, it was phishing mostly, that kind of thing. And they'd get you to click on a link, get the dropper in there, get the malware in behind it, steal your banking credentials, make off with your money.
Is the stock photo here just the web inspector?
Yes.
Because
Look at it, he's hacking.
only a hacker would look at the CSS, Krista.
Well, clearly.
That's secret code.
They're not even using like the breakpoint inspector in the JavaScript. I mean, that would even be a little bit more unbelievable.
Noobs.
Just like straight at the HTML, he's got to know.
Now let's do a little China block. Remember Dragonfly?
I do.
How could anybody defend Dragonfly, right? I mean, it was a terrible thing. No one could make the argument that Dragonfly would be good for the Chinese people. It's just impossible.
Oh, wait. The Intercept has this article about Google's censored search would help China, quote unquote, be more open, said ex-CEO Eric Schmidt.
How smug he is.
He was completely unironically talking about this, and he was in an interview, and he handled the interview really well. But one of the sources for The Intercept, who worked on the Dragonfly project, was asked by The Intercept about this. What do you think? They said it's total BS. Eric Schmidt is just feeding them a total BS.
Yeah, well, he made some comments about the people must have known what they were working on, right? And that guy was like, no, of course we did. We were so compartmentalized, and the secrecy was so absolute that we didn't know what the hell we were working on. And of course we wouldn't have been doing it if we knew that it was censored Chinese search. But maybe the most ridiculous thing he said was Dragonfly would somehow make China more open.
Doubt.
Which, if I were the interviewer, I'd be like, oh, Mr. Schmidt, could you expound on that perhaps? Could you give some examples?
And then he just makes that face in the header.
And speaking of China, not only do they they want censored search results. They don't get them yet. They will eventually. But from time to time, they arbitrarily choose to turn things off. And this is a big one.
The Great Firewall of China has blocked off Wikipedia. And it's not because students are cheating on research papers. It's because there's certain things on Wikipedia that the Chinese government doesn't want to be on Wikipedia.
Is Wikipedia cheating? I mean, the knowledge is there. You consume it in your research.
Well, and it has sources.
Yeah.
Pro tip, when you're writing a research paper and you want to cite Wikipedia, but you don't really want to, just go down to the sources and list those instead.
Yeah, I don't.
It's a little shady, but...
A little shady.
But then, see, the red flag is going to come, Krista, when every student has the same sources. Because everybody did what you said.
you have to be smart about it, but...
Yeah, you keep it to yourself. And don't throw it out there on YouTube.
I'm not in school anymore. I'm done.
You're ruining it for everybody else. 5G is coming. We talked about 5G before. And here's an interesting thing that I had not considered about 5G. And in a place like Japan, where Internet of Things is more ubiquitous than it is here, which is kind of crazy here. In Japan, apparently, they want their toaster to have a phone number, right? Why wouldn't you?
Internet of Things phone numbers.
Why wouldn't you want your toaster to be able to robocall people with malware, right? So you got to have a lot of phone numbers. Even little tiny nation like Japan, too many. So what do? You just add digits.
Japan plans to create a 10 billion 14-digit phone number as 5G era nears.
How many people live in Japan?
Not 10 billion.
Well, there's not 10 billion people in the world.
Well, listen, your phone has to have a phone number. Some of your apps have to have phone numbers. Your toaster has to have a phone number. Your
and you're going to
doorbell.
have to update all those apps to allow for 14-digit phone numbers.
How else are you going to call your...
What do we got? 400 million?
Yeah.
So Japan, they're like way more population density than us, but they've probably got like 200 million at the most.
Well, they had the foresight to actually all of their Internet of Things devices already has its own international prefix. So, I mean, that seems like that's ripe for hackers. It's
but
like,
all of these new numbers are going to be that.
We need to robo-dial the thermostats. Guess what, guys? They've got their own prefix. This is going to be easy.
Also, do you think all of your appliances work on the same mobile plan? Does that have data caps?
I'm not going to be toasting my bagel this morning because I've hit my data cap.
Comcast says I can't refrigerate my food. Yeah, that's crazy. There's going to be some hilarious things and tragic things that come from that.
It's going to get worse than Cory Doctorow's unauthorized bread. It's going to be amazing.
When we think about streaming and big events in the world, you think about like the Super Bowl. You think about, I don't know, what's the hot, remember when American Idol, like everybody watched the finale of American Idol. What's the hot show now?
Game of Thrones?
The Voice. Game of Thrones.
Game of
Can't
Thrones.
wait for the salt. Oh, I can't wait.
Game of Thrones I don't think as many people stream that. But anyway, I wouldn't think of, as, an entitled American, I wouldn't think that it would be cricket in India. But it is by a huge margin.
There's a lot of people in India.
Yeah, Hotstar, Disney's Indian streaming service, sets a new global record for live viewership. Things are taking off in India with media. So this was 18 million simultaneous playbacks on this stream. The infrastructure to be able to handle that is seriously impressive.
Yeah, and they said they had no problem scaling up to that.
Wow.
And they said, in the future, we'll do more, and it'll be no problem. And the previous record was 10, and it was theirs.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'd love to talk to the engineers that put that together, because you got to think, and it's a whole different game at that kind of scale.
So this was the championship of this cricket league, and literally everybody watched it. How many people does India have?
1 billion.
So
Aren't they more populous than China at this point, or are they like right behind them? They're second, I think.
Second, yeah.
well, China's got what, like 2 or 3 billion?
I think like right at 2.
Yeah,
Not
so
quite.
but 18 million people watching the same thing, no matter how big your population is, that's just incredible. So
It is a seriously impressive technical accomplishment. It
And-
makes me sad that Disney's at the helm of that.
Disney, yeah.
That's not even surprising, though.
But
mean-
I see why Disney bought this company now.
Well, it goes to show you that Disney, because Disney has said, and we'll have another story about this, they're like, no, we are dead serious about streaming. We're going to do it, and we're going to do it Disney style, which means we're going to just dominate it. And
Yeah.
here they are.
Monopolize
It's
it.
literally like in X-Files, where it's like the smoking man's in the chair and all you see is his silhouette with like the lit cigarette, except it's the mouse ears with the lit cigarette. That's how serious Disney is.
Yeah. Well, let's get into social media, and of course that means all Facebook. Because Facebook is all that the news wants to talk about when it comes to social media. Maybe once in a while we'll talk about Twitter, but mostly just Facebook and the Facebook subsidiaries, of course. And the first thing let's talk about relates to China, because we make these arguments about China. We talk about Huawei and the Chinese companies. Huawei, if you look at our big data companies, and our government has this contentious relationship with them, but also the size of Huawei and China. Whereas that government is like they're just in bed. So she says it's not fair.
Facebook's Sheryl Sandberg. Chinese tech companies are also powerful, and they will not be broken up. And did you watch the interview with this?
I did not.
Good Lord. I know she's a lizard person, and I know that I should not be convinced by the words that she says, but she was seriously impressive in this interview. I don't know if it's coaching or just raw skill, or if she has like carnivorous audio earwigs that go in your brain and change the way that you think, but she had a really good argument here that I think falls apart under scrutiny, but it sounds really good.
Is she like Saruman, where he has like that really sweet voice, and everyone kind of agrees with him, and then they think about it later, and they're like, "Wait, what did I agree to?"
I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think that's why they hired her. 'Cause they knew. They knew that Zuckerberg could never be.
I've never
that.
seen her on on her A game. It is you should go watch the interview because it is.
No, you shouldn't. If that's the case, you should avoid it. Like the aforementioned Saruman, you should not be alone in a room with him. But anyway,
Yeah.
it's a terrible argument because it's like, hey, the U.S. should be more like China.
No, I took it away as the U.S. There's a coming battle basically, and the U.S. needs allies like Facebook to fight for the U.S. interests. And
Oh my gosh, she is Saruman.
yeah, and it was like, wow, that actually makes some sense.
But
We
it
must
doesn't.
join with him, Gandalf.
It doesn't because
Yeah, exactly.
Huawei is infrastructure,
Yes.
and I can see the power in that. But Facebook is just nonsense.
Well, I mean, you can apparently
right.
steal an election with Facebook, and so that's kind of the undertone here, though.
But you have to buy into the fact that the people didn't actually want severe change.
Yes, okay, that's true, but the argument that's presented here has a more sinister undercurrent in that it would seem to suggest that they believe internally that Facebook is insanely powerful at manipulating public opinion and where the society can go. And so if they push it hard enough, they could move the entire society one way or the other.
That's probably true.
And that she's willing to wield that power so surreptitiously is damn scary.
And we also, there's a really good chance, based on what we've seen, if not for the terrible 2018 that Facebook had in terms of PR, Zuckerberg was looking at that presidency.
Zuckerberg could just, if they believe what the undertones here are, the presidency doesn't even matter. They could just control the world and it's fine.
Well, there's a lot of people who believe that's the case. Although he's probably too young, right? How old is he?
I think he's in his 30s, so he's probably too young.
He's probably looking at that as an advantage, though. It's like, all the Bilderbergs are going to die and that'll leave their empire to me.
Well, that's not how that works. They have lots of heirs.
But they're incompetent. It's fine. They're not as bloodthirsty and ruthless as I am.
So
Trust
we
factors.
mentioned Cambridge Analytica, and that was the tipping point. That's where Facebook went from, this thing that everybody thought was fun and, hey, yeah, it's a big company, but yeah, I love logging on and seeing what my neighbors are up to and, my family and, posting my pictures to, oh God, they're doing that? Are you really? They're evil. And it seems to have affected recruiting.
Facebook has struggled to hire talent since the Cambridge Analytica scandal, according to recruiters who work there. So this is a CNBC article, and I was trying to figure out what the motivation is for this particular article, because when Facebook would make offers to candidates, according to the information they dug up, it was like an 85% acceptance rate. So, I mean, pretty good benefits, big company, all that kind of thing. Now the acceptance rate is more like 35%. Maybe a little better, but 35% at the lowest end, which is quite a swing.
It could just be that they're screening more heavily for sociopathy. They don't want the Google problem where the people internally rise up against Dragonfly.
Once they realize what they're working on,
Yeah,
they should have
yeah.
known what they're working on. Well, once they realized, they took action.
Yeah,
They're using
they like
that,
it.
the Facebook leverage and the knowledge about your habits, and they're finding only people that they know will work within the Facebook evil. So that's, and only 35%. So
Small portion of the population is evil enough to work at Facebook.
Engagement challenge. Are you a recent college grad and did you apply to work, or did Facebook come recruiting? Tell us your story in the comments below.
we should make a quiz on level1text.com. Are you evil enough to work at Facebook?
Oh, yeah.
Do you even realize how evil you are?
We should add some listicles to the website, too.
Remember when we talked about the people who were moderating Facebook video were basically being traumatized by
All the horrible things they were seeing.
yeah, that's the and not just the horrible things they were seeing, but just the frequency of horror, right? Like how, and it's probably, you could get used to one kind of terrible thing, but it's just a potpourri of evil. So, how do you fix that? How do you make someone who has to deal with that kind of terribleness? How do you make their life better? And Facebook has the answer. It's $3.
Facebook will increase pay for its contractors in North America. Yeah, $3 from The Verge. That's going to just, that guy in the last article that said that it's like, I just go home and immediately take a shower after work for like an hour and I just sob in the shower.
Stare at the wall.
That guy is totally not going to have to do that now.
You like
He's going to sleep better with that $3.
you watch 5 beheadings and a rape, just in a row. But then you look at your Starbucks cup and it was like, well, this was basically free this hour. I feel totally better right now.
I've forgotten about all the terrible things I just witnessed.
I could almost get a 6-inch sub based on my suffering for the past hour. Yeah, bad news. Now, Facebook has talked about with Cambridge Analytica and now the rank wave thing, which we haven't even seen where that's gone yet. They have to try to get ahead of things that disrupt democracy. And they claim that they have done that in West Africa.
Facebook shuts down an Israeli firm's effort to influence politics in West Africa. So, LinkedIn linked to a shadowy company called Archimedes Group. So, this article talks about stuff that Facebook has done here, and I was convinced, but it seems a little too like a PR stunt by Facebook.
Well, and I can't remember the slogan for Archimedes Group, but it was literally like the most obvious thing, like, we'll win you an election.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't subtle at all.
Paying for political victories.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly the kind of thing it was. It was like, oh, that seems a little on the nose, but okay.
It seems like somebody inside Facebook literally just Googled the company and was like, wait, this company's kind of shady. And then they turned it into a PR event.
Yeah. And The Verge gave them a headline. So, and we're talking
worked.
about it. So, hey, we're all complicit.
They're on the highest part of the totem pole if we're talking about it.
Now, when it comes to Facebook, like I said, the 2020 election, big tech companies are going to be one of the biggest issues. And Facebook is definitely at the forefront of that. I think Facebook probably ahead of Google, don't you?
Yeah.
Because,
Facebook's definitely had more missteps.
and I think Facebook, a lot of politicians are more willing to have Facebook as an enemy than Google.
Yeah.
Because if Google messes with your search results, you're done. So they're going to go after them. But it seems like that's a good thing for the politicians because America cares about it.
40% of Americans support antitrust action against Facebook after a co-founder has called for it to be broken up. A co-founder, we talked about this last week, but Business Insider was like, hey, that sounds like a good idea for a poll. And so their results are in this week, and 40% of Americans support antitrust action against Facebook.
And I wonder if any big political players saw that headline, and 2 days later, you get this article. 4 days later.
You mean a staffer saw it?
Oh, hey, Bernie, how's it going? So The Verge has this article. Bernie Sanders becomes the latest 2020 candidate to call for a Facebook breakup. It was kind of light on details. I really felt like Bernie was phoning it in on this one.
Well, listen, Elizabeth Warren did it first. So, late to the game, Bernie. But yeah, he basically just came out and said, break up the big tech companies. And among his people, I don't think that's a radical thing to say.
No. Well, I'm a little bit worried about it because they haven't demonstrated any kind of technical competence. And it's like, okay, you want to break up Facebook? I might go along with that. But why?
Don't worry. The Democratic Party will screw Bernie Sanders 100%. You don't have to worry about him being the Democratic candidate. That's not going to happen.
Oh, speaking of things that are not going to happen, that was the last story. So you'll have to wait until tomorrow for more stories.
All right.
Woo!
Hello, today is Wednesday, and it is the 22nd of May. And I think it's Memorial Day this weekend?
That will be Monday.
Oh, yeah, whatever. Memorial Day weekend.
What's your plans, Christy? You going camping?
No, you don't go camping on Memorial Day weekend.
Oh, of course.
Well, it's because it's packed. Like,
what am I thinking?
you're not going to be able to find a spot.
You might get stabbed.
You might if you're on the Appalachian Trail.
Remember when phone companies were selling our location data to bounty hunters and basically anybody else who wanted to pay for it? Well, Ajit Pai said he was going to step in, champion of the people that he is, and he was going to put a stop to it. And maybe he has if you trust the phone companies, because they're the ones that are saying it.
Phone companies say they've mostly stopped selling your location data to shady middlemen. ... Narrator, they hadn't.
Not even mostly. Not even a little.
We just have to go on their word, which they're phone companies, so they are absolutely unassailable in their truthfulness, right?
Now, this is actually, the second or third time that they have said that they've stopped selling location data.
But it's for serious this time. The exception, when they say mostly, the exception is they will still sell it to emergency, like OnStar, like those kinds of services.
So can OnStar resell that then as another revenue stream?
They probably do.
Hey, look, whatever OnStar does with your real-time location data at all times, we got no control of that.
Yeah.
We just get a cut.
Yeah.
It really works out for everybody except for you.
They probably had to raise the price for OnStar to make up for all the bounty hunting services that they lost, because you can't lose that revenue, right?
Meanwhile, Google is laughing in GPS coordinates of every Android phone on planet Earth.
Verizon. Remember when 5G was in Chicago and they tested it and it worked like 2 city blocks and you had to be basically lying prone on top of the little micro tower thing? Well, they say it's getting better.
Verizon's 5G network is now hitting gigabit download speeds when you're laying prone on top of the transmitter.
Good news for those 2 blocks.
Yeah, so there's this entire article is just screenshots of mind-blowing wireless speeds.
They mentioned video downloads, so there was like Iron Man in 90 seconds.
You can destroy your entire month's data cap in 90 seconds.
And an episode of The Office in 8 seconds. Although, watching it in real time, if you're streaming it, is that a huge advantage?
Well, you can go through your data cap immediately. Like, you could download that episode 2 or 3 times just to make sure that you go over your data cap.
But then they also have the issue of phone storage.
Yeah, you don't bother storing it on the phone. You have to download it over and over again so that you run out of your cap faster.
Okay.
That's a business. That's part of the business
It's
plan.
more efficient. It's better.
That's good news for
It's better.
Verizon shareholders, right? Hewlett Packard Enterprise, which is technically a different company than Hewlett Packard, has decided to go hard in supercomputing.
Hewlett Packard Enterprise is going to acquire Cray for $1.3 billion.
That's Cray.
That's an unfortunate name that maybe didn't age well, but...
It's
No, I thought that pre-existed
I know,
yeah.
but...
Kanye.
Did Kanye come up with cray?
I don't know.
Cray,
He popularized it, I think.
I think, yeah. That's a popular slang term for crazy, in case you're living under a rock.
Crazy fast, maybe.
Nah.
I wonder. I really wonder if. So there's this project at Oak Ridge that's the Cray thing. HP is going to supply the hardware. I really wonder if like Cray got the bid and they just went to HP and were like, "You want to buy us because this is going to cost a lot of money." And HP was like, "Okay, sounds good."
1 point something billion.
Yeah,
So-
1.3. Yeah.
Quite a lot of dollars. See if that works out for him. This is an amazing story. So we don't realize that hearing, our brains are actually selective about focusing in on what we're trying to hear. Like somehow our brains are like, they have this power to filter out other things. Like we have active noise canceling almost.
Like the
in our
terrible air
brains.
conditioning sound that
We just don't even hear it.
Yeah, just tune it out.
Meanwhile, you guys are like, "Oh, nails on a
It hurts.
chalkboard." Oh.
That explains why horrible parents, when they're in public and their kids are just screeching at the table next to me, they don't care because they can do that.
They don't seem to hear anything.
But
And I wonder
can't-
what's wrong.
I can't stop it. And it turns out it's real bad news if you have hearing impairment, because hearing aids don't account for that until now.
Scientists have created mind-controlled hearing aids. So these hearing aids are actually able to focus on and emphasize one particular voice or another voice, which I thought was mind-blowing. Like, I looked at the demos for all the stuff that they say these are going to be able to do just by you thinking about what you want to hear. It's astonishing. It's an incredible invention.
Look at this statuesque older lady. I bet she's like the best hearing aid model in the world.
she has
Unfortunately,
beautiful ears.
this seems to be like more than a year away from market.
I didn't get how they interfaced with the brain here, though. Do you have to have
You have to have a matrix hole
An
in the back of your
electrode?
neck.
I don't remember them really saying other than you just think about it.
compares the audio of each speaker to the brain waves of the person wearing the hearing aid? Yeah, how? How do you read the brain waves?
From behind the ear?
I guess.
I hope we don't hear about this in a year and find out it was a scam, because it is actually a really cool piece of tech.
It is, yeah. It's very cool. And probably would have uses beyond hearing loss. There'd be other cool things we could do with this.
Well, it's good news
Maybe-
for us when we get old.
Yeah, and maybe tuning out those children at restaurants. If you'd use it for that, that'd be great.
How cool would it be to have an AI assistant that's like, oh, let me surround you with a noise-canceling bubble?
We could go to Cracker Barrel in peace. The Cracker Barrel is so loud.
No technology could overcome that level of noise.
It's so noisy. In
How
there.
about we reverse the technology so that it amplifies the cries of the child, and the parents have to wear headsets while they eat? And so it's just like, just mind-rending shrieks whenever that child makes noise.
Oh, that would be cool. I'm imagining a society where everybody has these, communication devices, but they don't directly communicate thoughts. But if you are in a restaurant and everybody is wearing these transceivers, and a lot of people in the restaurant are uncomfortable because your kid is making a lot of noise, you would receive a small corrective electric shock.
Yeah. I'm sure Google wouldn't run that and use it for nefarious purposes.
It's like, oh, I got a little. I'm doing something that is. I've broken the social contract in some way. I'm getting a small electric shock. What have I done?
See, I thought you were gonna like run with that and say like you wanted something like that for yourself, and like because sometimes you don't know or something.
Wait, it would be helpful. I
Yeah.
mean, I sometimes don't pick up on social cues.
I fantasize about something like that for driving, right? So like if you're in a multiple lane highway and you're at the far left,
and you're going 60 miles an hour.
there's somebody up in front there and there's nothing but daylight in front of them and a giant row of cars behind them, I want that person to suffer in some way. Some sort of peer-to-peer, like you just kick it forward. Like every car has a device and like it comes on, it's like, are you the asshole? Nope, it's not me. You flip a switch and then when it gets to that person, they flip their switch, but there's no car in front of them to catch it. So they're the asshole.
And that's take everybody's.
I would
abuse.
love to build that system.
Tesla has the technology. We could go to work for
I'm
Tesla
not
and
working for
programming.
Musk. No, I'm not doing it. If you buy tickets, there is a problem with tickets because these days digital photography is really good. And printers, also really good. High DPI. You can just print copies of those tickets. And that causes problems. Ticketmaster has the solution.
Ticketmaster puts an end to screenshots with the new digital ticket technology. So basically, this is an app. They've got an app that knows your phone, cryptographically knows your phone. And also the ticket changes every couple of minutes or every 30 seconds or whatever. So
The barcode changes, right?
yeah, so if somebody takes a picture of your phone, even if they print it and use it somewhere else, it's not good by the time they've printed it.
And a lot of people apparently like to transfer tickets to their friends just by sending them the tickets. But this would not work in that scenario. You would have to actually go through the transfer process, which tells Ticketmaster who the new person is and their contact details, which goes into their database, which they resell for profit.
It's really just, it's great for everybody.
They also mentioned that at first, and you can imagine this is true. Imagine like old school country music performances where the audience is old and they're trying to get in with these phone tickets. It's like, I don't know, my thumb ain't reading. Yeah, that's going to be a nightmare.
Can you help me, young man?
I wonder if this would stop scalpers. Like, would this legit fix scalping?
Well, it does also track the resale. So if you were reselling 1 million tickets,
They'd probably frown upon that.
yeah, but you'd have to use those, like where they do the phone banks when they game the.
There's just a bunch of phones on a wall in China
Right,
somewhere.
Yeah.
Exactly. So they get around it, but it's going to cause them some headaches. So maybe that's a good thing. The Epic Game Store. Wow, people hate the Epic Game
They're
Store.
really salty about it. I see posts about it
They
constantly.
hate it, and just it's the vitriol is so real. And I understand. I mean, there's some good arguments against it, but the hate maybe just is more than that is needed. Anyway, they're having a sale, and it's causing a lot of reaction.
Epic discounts its entire game store library in store-wide mega sales. Some things are, like 50% off, and the leak also suggests a $10 incentive for a 2-factor security sign-up because the security on the Epic store has been terrible to even worse than terrible. There were a bunch of games that were delisted from the Epic store ahead of this sale. So, like, if you pre-ordered certain games, I don't know which ones, but that were not going to be discounted, they're just not listed on the store anymore. So if you had, an upcoming AAA title that you wanted, you're not going to be able to buy it under this sale. But this is a bid.
Or apply your $10 toward it.
Or apply your $10 towards it. But this is a bid to get more people to use the Epic Games launcher.
They also, with that same announcement of the big sale, announced more exclusives, which is one of the reasons people are so angry at them.
Yeah.
But hey, you can't, for a sale, it's not like Steam doesn't do this. And Steam used to do it like this. Now they just give you tepid crap sales. Not even worth it.
I don't know. I got the Utopia and Synthetic Dawn DLC for Stellaris for like $10. That was pretty good.
They're worth like $2.
I liked them.
Everybody loves Microsoft Bing, right? We all use that constantly.
I constantly hear around the office, let me Bing that for you.
Which almost sounds sexual. But perhaps something good will finally come out of Bing.
Microsoft has open sourced a crucial algorithm behind its Bing search services. I have not looked at this in detail, but this seems interesting.
It's vector searching, and they got this little layout here. They'll show you how you can apply this to Python library, and you can apply it to your own stuff that you want to search. They have an API.
Is there a key for this graph?
SBT, Krista, obviously, and also graph. This is the graph. Actually, it's probably the graph. Just find something in the API like Facebook. Anyway, hey, why not, right?
This is, I guess, Microsoft's version of MapReduce. They've got, yeah.
You know who this will be super useful for? Is last week the guy we talked about who does all that manga statistical work.
Oh, yeah.
So he can search through his manga library very easily based on, the dialogue and even it does images too. There's like pixel by pixel image search, yeah.
I still haven't. Microsoft demoed something that was called Sea Dragon like 10 years ago now, and I still haven't seen that. Like, it was so cool. Where's it at, Microsoft? Where's it at?
Lenovo, which is one of the big players in the PC game these days, has decided to get into the augmented reality business.
Lenovo has launched ThinkReality AR and VR headsets for enterprises.
Here you go, Krista. Rate this for attractiveness.
You know, compared to some of the others, which got really sweaty when we did the VR, I could see that being more efficient.
Well, this is the AR.
Or, yeah, I guess augmented is different, isn't it? Still, again, you don't have that sweat factor, which that's just a big plus to me.
So these are not tethered to a PC. There's like a little belt pack thing, which is pretty cool.
That picture of the guy, like, with his hand in his hair, like he's modeling.
Yeah, he's like, I'm so cool. But yeah, here's the, so that's actually the computer that runs it.
Which is a
Whereas
Snapdragon something or other.
The
which is kinda
Microsoft version has the computing in the headset. So this one's much lighter, but you got to carry that thing around.
Cool. Yeah.
Which,
It's like a phone. That's probably fine, right?
yeah, it's
phone
probably more convenient.
It's probably not going to give you cancer.
But here's the thing about this AR headset that supposedly gives it the advantage is they've designed this for other people to develop apps almost exclusively. And they've made it very easy to do that rather than trying to give you, you know, their killer app that they created. So I can see that, you know, being able to play with that and do augmented reality stuff. It also does the obvious eye tracking and overlay, and it's got a camera on each side to pick up the outside world. I don't know. I'm not
Sweat free.
I'm sure it's not sweat free.
It's better than like the thing that like suction cup to your face though, like a face hugger.
It was fine.
It was fine,
It was fine.
but it could be improved, and they did.
Yeah. Well, if it's, you know, I'd say most people don't share VR headsets. We were in a unique situation.
Thanks,
Well,
Ava Direct.
but it's kind of like it's like a party game sort of thing though. Like surely you would share it.
Everybody gets their own, Krista.
Oh yeah, for the low price.
Oh, you know, I am so excited about Amazon one-day delivery, and I'm ready. I'm ready for one-day delivery. I am so spoiled by two-day delivery. When they take me to one, I can never go back. You know, you can. It's like opioids. You got to get more and more.
So you build up a tolerance, and then you want instant delivery.
Yeah, delivery tolerance, and other companies know that, which is why we have this announcement.
Walmart has announced next day delivery, firing back at Amazon. So this is from CNBC. Walmart is going to offer next day delivery to more than 200,000 items on its website.
Here's
So
the thing,
they're going
though.
to use the Walmart stores for the logistics here, which is just software.
I feel like I go into Walmart generally like because I have to. Do people? I guess some people must order stuff online at Walmart, but
Well, a lot of people shop at Walmart.
like, don't you? That seems like more of a physical.
They're already doing the pickup thing where you just go online, order it, and then you just drive to the store and then bring it out.
This is to your house.
Yeah, this is to your house.
But
yeah.
you could also get it at the store. I think picking it up in store in a lot of cases would be more convenient, especially if you don't have a place to get it delivered to. Like you can't get it delivered to your workplace because they're just on your way home. I mean, everybody's got access to a Walmart.
Well, yeah, I mean
That's true.
That's what I mean because they're already doing you go to the store and pick it up. They're already stocking these items at basically every Walmart. So the last step is just having somebody take that to your house is not a big deal.
Yeah. Although I don't ever shop on Walmart.com. I mean, that's not.
Yeah, see, I don't know anybody who does.
Oh. I don't associate with Walmart shoppers.
Listen, I go into Walmart every now and then, but it's usually because it's like, oh, I need this thing real quick, and the only place to get it is Walmart.
We talked about Disney and their streaming empire and how they're taking it very seriously. And here is another example of that. And a woman who is apparently wearing a lampshade on her head.
Disney is taking full control of Hulu. I saw this, and I was really excited. The Flying Nun was coming back. Like they were doing a remake of The Flying Nun, but that was not what this was.
No.
This is actually a flightless nun.
No, I can't remember the name of the show, but
Handmaid's
it's like
Tale.
That's it, yeah.
So yeah, it used to be, Hulu was started as like a triumvirate.
Yeah.
But is it Comcast that's getting out of it?
Well, it's more interesting than that. Comcast is giving leadership control to Disney right now, but the buyout doesn't happen for 5 years.
Yeah, I think Comcast sees the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Because Disney Plus is going to roll out.
And Warner was the other one.
They're going to choke off all of the other movie streaming platforms. And then they're going to use Hulu and do the same thing with TV.
Do you see the mouse ears with the lit cigarette shadow again? It's just...
Yeah.
It's, I never understood why you would pay for Hulu. I mean, I guess you can get Hulu Plus, but like, you still have to watch ads with Hulu. What's the point? But I bet it'll be worse with Disney. I bet Disney will put even more ads in.
The point is for Disney to make money. Like, You're paying for the privilege. You
To
will
watch their ads.
You will watch and enjoy the ads.
But as TV dies, as we saw last week, 14,000 a week. That's crazy, right? So as TV dies, they're going to pull all the channels that they run. They're going to pull their Fox, their ESPN. They're going to pull sports. And instead of getting that on TV, you're going to get it on Hulu and nowhere else. And they're going to dominate.
Sports would probably be a good thing for streaming. I don't think that exists really much yet.
Here's another engagement challenge. Have any of you security analysts in the audience actually looked at the Android or iOS versions of Netflix and Hulu and some of the other video playback and streaming applications to see if it's using the front-facing camera while you're watching on those devices? Because if it's not happened yet, it soon will, where Netflix watches to see if you're engaged with the ad and will count that differently from an analytics perspective. Or Disney. I think Disney will do it first.
Yeah, I think Disney will do it first as well. Netflix doesn't usually show a lot of ads.
I'm going to confound that algorithm by showing videos to my cats.
The man's face got very hairy and small when he looked at this ad.
We'll count this as 0.25 engagement.
Remember the Samsung Fold?
Yeah, it's not out yet because it had some problems.
Well, we might talk about that later, but it's interesting because Lenovo looked at that and didn't say, oh, why would anybody want that? They said, yes.
We'll do that too.
We'll make that bigger.
Lenovo unveils the world's first foldable PC coming in 2020. So this doesn't exist yet. This is, quote unquote, a concept. But this is also, Lenovo is doing this to see how much buzz it has. And if no one cares and or people mock the product mercilessly, it's not coming in 2020. And so I'm just going to tell you right now, it's not coming in 2020.
You have to have a soft keyboard on that, right?
Yeah.
I don't like that at all.
No.
That's terrible.
Last year at Computex, there were several people that had dual screen laptops. I think that Asus demoed one for sure, and I think Lenovo had one as well, where it was just two screens, one in each half. Lenovo has the Yoga Book, which is e-ink on one side and then a regular LCD on the other, and so you can do drawing or you can turn the e-ink into a touch keyboard. So this kind of already exists, but not the foldable version.
Well, Samsung is apparently getting right back on that horse that bucked them, and they're saying they have solved the issues with the Fold.
Samsung reportedly readying a Galaxy Fold for release after finding a fix. This is basically just they're putting some stuff in the hinge to keep crap out of the hinge.
They literally describe it as making the holes smaller.
I just like to imagine they're just filling it with glue.
Yeah.
Paste.
Well, they can't do that because it has to... But, I mean, no matter how small you make those holes, something's going to get in there.
You're going to need some kind of a gel so that the gel prevents the...
So then it's good and sticky so the stuff sticks to it.
Yeah.
It's gross.
Another issue, the removable protective screen, they have now tucked that down under the bezel.
Oh, okay. So that people don't get the idea.
Right. Yeah, it's still there. Just harder to peel off. So they say it's coming, and we'll see.
Oh, it's coming.
It's still $2,000. And after the previous debacle, are you going to risk $2,000 on that?
As much as I drop my phone, I mean, I'm constantly fumbling my phone, so no.
I want to see one, but I wouldn't pay for it. Like, I want to look at someone else looking at it.
Are you going to get it and just, like, violently fold it in front of them? Like,
I just want to see what it feels like. And
just
like,
take my phone out of my pocket. It's like, oh, look at that.
Just pick up a handful of sand and just start revving it. Did they fix it? Oh, taxes. Paying taxes is horrible. And insult to injury is having to go to a tax preparer because it's not a good experience.
Ryan had a really bad experience. Let's say that.
Maybe you want to do it yourself, but the reason I didn't do it myself this year is because the do-it-yourself approaches will nickel and dime you during the entire process. They're like, oh, wait, your income has reached a new threshold. Deposit $39.99. Or it's like, oh, you have too many items to enter into this form. Deposit $10.99. And it goes on and on like that. And it turns out they're getting in a little bit of trouble doing things like that.
The Intuit CEO on internal video said that hiding the free TurboTax was in best interest of taxpayers. So ProPublica has gotten a hold of something like the employees at Intuit were like, wait, were we doing something unethical? And the CEO of Intuit was like, no, let me explain why this was fine. And ProPublica then takes that apart piece by piece, and it's glorious.
Now, they did two very suspicious things. Very suspicious things. They ran Google ads on all of the search phrases that you might expect someone would search for to get free tax preparation software. So like
Which directed them to the paid.
free tax preparation, you would see a Google ad for TurboTax Premium, right?
Freedom. It was the Freedom version, which is not free.
Yeah, like free as in speech, not as in beer. And the other thing they did was prevent Google from indexing the landing page for the free version, the real
Wow.
free version. Yeah. His excuse was we didn't want to take up that first search result spot because we thought people were looking for other tax information. Didn't want to get in front of the IRS.
You know, it's scummy, but that is some impressive SEO optimization. I'm not even mad.
Apparently, it did get a result because they measurably got returns from it. But I think they get some subsidies, right? Like they work with the IRS to offer this free program. Now, this only works if you make under a certain amount of money. Was it like $30,000 or something? Maybe less.
Yeah, it was like 30 or 35.
So this is for people who don't make a lot of money, and tax preparation might be an undue burden because they're not paying any extra taxes anyway. They're getting money back. So let them do it for free. TurboTax, not a fan of that.
Yeah, one of the reasons that the IRS has not come out with its own like free file product on their own website is because these tax preparers say that they have a free service. They've just made it very difficult to actually use, which the IRS also is frowning upon, but not actually taking any action.
Hard to be on the side of the IRS, but I think you got to take their side on this one, right? Although I bet their version would be
Just
the most
awful.
horrible
Yeah.
user experience that you can imagine.
And it would take like 8 years for them to do. And
Yeah.
Kickstarter. Remember Kickstarter? They said, we want a union.
They got one.
And their CEO said, guys, I don't think no, you don't want a union. You definitely don't want that. And they were like, no, we do want it. We've made one. And he says,
Kickstarter will not voluntarily recognize its employee union, according to The Verge.
voluntarily being the key word.
I know this position is disappointing for some of you who are hoping the company would voice support for this effort, CEO Aziz Hassan has written.
So, yeah.
Good job, Kickstarter. Good job.
Until they put the proverbial gun to his head, he's not going to pay attention to the union. We'll see how that develops. That will, I imagine that's kind of like a test. Like, how much can I push this union around? Right? If they don't fight me on this, I'm good. So we'll see. I love stories about Teslas that catch fire. It's no secret. And I don't try to make it a secret. But, now, Wendell, you're a man who loves catchphrases. And one of your go-to phrases is putting out fires.
Yeah.
Now, when you say putting out fires, you're not talking about literally extinguishing fire.
Nope.
You're more often than not talking about software. Imagine a world where you could literally put out fires with software. How amazing would that be? Well, it's here. It's now.
CNN Business has got this story. Tesla is updating its battery software after a car caught fire. Not just one, but two. So CNN Business uncovered another Tesla that mysteriously burst into flames. And so Tesla has said that they are issuing a software update that they think will prevent this scenario. They looked at the telemetry here and said that the batteries were probably defective, but they were going to update the software to better handle it in terms of like the thermal and charge characteristics, so that it was a little more conservative and would hopefully prevent a runaway thermal event.
if you're an owner of one of these cars and you hear the batteries are probably defective, like, do you feel good about that purchase
Yeah,
then?
well,
It's only two cars. I mean,
they have to be really careful about that too, because if it turns out to be just aggressive charging, so they could say they charge quickly,
yeah,
if there's a risk of fire, they're going to get sued into oblivion.
yeah.
So,
I like the phrase also, like one of the key catchphrases that you always hear is out of an abundance of caution. So that's code for
covering our ass. When you're not home, you worry about your house. You know, people breaking in, fires, the cats pooping on the wall. In my case, which they did again Friday night. And it would be nice if you had someone there looking out for you. And Amazon says they got you covered.
Amazon rolls out Alexa Guard to help you protect your home while you're out. Since this speaker is always on and always recording, why not put the botnet to work for you to listen for burglars to break into your house?
See, I was imagining more like a Roomba scenario where that thing's just rolling around with a gun, ready to shoot whoever walks in the door.
So apparently they went out and bought every kind of commercial window that's available on the market and shattered it and let Alexa record all of those sounds so that if glass shatters in your home, Alexa will be able to recognize that.
Nice.
I wonder if Alexa could recognize the sound of a hairball coming up.
What if you just drop a glass? Like
You get a, well, apparently she'll know the difference because the glass dropping sounds different than one of her recorded windows breaking.
So what you're saying is if you live in a 1906 farmhouse,
Yeah.
they have no idea what that sounds like because that's not commercially available anymore.
Or a golf course. Although you do arm this and disarm it like in a security system. There's a catchphrase just like, Alexa, I'm leaving or something like that. Yeah, Alexa, I'm leaving. And that arms her to begin patrol.
You can actually reprogram those phrases, which is really cool. I saw a video where somebody had changed all of the Alexa catchphrases to things from Star Trek. So that was, it's like...
And then you're like, man, maybe I need an Alexa.
I considered it.
And moving on to security, the big story this week is yet another... I'm tired. Tired of talking about...
Intel's tired too.
Yeah, I'm sure they are.
I saw that, like, I'm going to be honest, I saw the headline for this article and I was like, skip. Like, just another one.
It's another, what's the word for anticipating code? Predictive. Predictive exploit.
Intel CPUs have been impacted by a new zombie load side channel attack. No, this is not a repeat of, I don't know, the last 50 times we've mentioned this. This one's very difficult to mitigate. Intel, which up to this point had been very, like the OpenBSD guys and some of the really big names in security consulting, really well-respected academics that about a year ago were saying basically disable hyperthreading. Intel was like, no, you don't need to disable hyperthreading. It's not that severe. Intel is now saying, look, you're going to have to disable hyperthreading.
The good news here, though, is this one's probably a little harder to actually engineer an attack from. So maybe less likely that they'll do this. But again, when you look at someone with infinite resources like Chinese government, or the U.S. government, they could certainly put something like this together.
This negatively impacts applications that have certain memory access patterns, but fortunately for gamers, it doesn't really negatively impact most kinds of gaming.
And Zombie Load is just one of them. There were several attacks. Zombie Load is the most concerning one, so it gets the headline. But there's, just like the other predictive attacks, there's a bunch of them, and they all work slightly differently, different buffers.
This is a family of attacks called microarchitectural data sampling, and the reason that it's called that is because it's not really x86. So like when you have a complex instruction that's going to be executed, it's broken down into micro-ops. The microcode manages that, and so now we have broken down the walls, as it were, and we have better insight into how the microcode works, and that's how these mechanisms work. They exploit loopholes, and cleanup the microcode just doesn't do. It's bad. It's real bad.
Remember that time that we found out that bloatware pre-installed on PCs was actually causing malware? Well, that's happened again.
Hackers abuse Asus's cloud service to install backdoor on users' PC. No, this is not a repeat from January, and no, this is not a repeat from March. This is the third event this year where Asus's software has been co-opted. So I think Asus is going to have to hire some new, like a new chief security officer, maybe like the red team. Maybe they got the blue team for the security. They need the red team.
Well, here's the thing, though. This researcher could not actually determine for sure if this was Asus sending out malware or man in the middle, because, of course, they use basic HTTP for this service. He concluded most likely man in the middle, which doesn't make you feel any better if you were infected, but would be an easy fix. However, if Asus is somehow infiltrated and is literally sending out malware in its updates, that's more concerning. Either way, bad. Bad time, Asus. Say no to bloatware.
No!
I thought this story was going to be more interesting than it was.
I mean, look at that stock photo.
Yeah. That's like the Red Hat photo. Made suspicious. Or logo. So, yeah, this is actually about if you want to get a block of IP addresses,
Which we're out of, by the way.
you need to be some sort of company, and you have to have certain paperwork and stuff like that. But you can just fake it.
Close to 735,000 fraudulently obtained IP addresses have been uncovered and revoked, Aaron reveals. So basically this company, it's like IPv4 address shortage was happening. This company was like, ooh, we could buy a bunch of IPs and then sell them at ridiculously inflated prices. I assume that's what was going on here. They had like 2 legit customers. So 2 legit customers got IPs from these people. Aaron did not revoke those. But by and large, most of the 735,000 IPs were unused. And so Aaron has revoked those. So good job, Aaron. It actually was.
Sounds more and more absurd the more you say the name.
Well, it was.
Like it's just one guy.
They were going to revoke the IPs in like December, but the company that acted fraudulently, I mean, if you're going to act fraudulent, I guess be bold, they got a temporary restraining order on Aaron to not do that until it could get before a judge. Well, the judge has basically ruled. I think it was an arbitrator ruled in Aaron's favor.
Which, that would be crazy if that went any other way. Because they basically proved that it was fraudulent. All of those applications, the companies didn't exist. Not only did they make up the companies, but they made like LinkedIn profiles for the officers and stuff like that.
That was probably someone's job.
Yeah.
Like, that's all they did was make LinkedIn profiles.
Probably, yeah.
They were hoping to make money on the shortage of IPv4 addresses. So the guy that was the ringleader, I think, is facing 30 counts of wire fraud at this point. So
That's funny because they probably don't have a law against the real crime there.
yeah.
So they get it for wire fraud. If you are made to suffer any kind of commercials, you're going to hear about these companies that claim to protect your identity or protect you against malware or whatever. Basically insurance against this kind of thing. And they will lay out all these things they're going to do. It's like it's rock solid. They are not going to get in. We are going to stop them. Well, it turns out they don't ever stop them.
The trade secret, the firms that promise high-tech ransomware solutions almost always just pay the hackers. So, yeah. If you've been attacked by ransomware and you have some, tech specialists that come in, they're just going to pay the ransom.
But charge more than the ransom.
It's actually a little bit of a problem because if the people that have attacked you are, like, say, from Iran, the State Department has a problem with you paying the Iranian ransom. That's a no-no.
Not illegal, though.
Just frowned upon.
Even for Iran?
Oh, Iran has the
sanctions,
yeah. Paying ransoms is not illegal, although
frowned upon.
They don't want you to. but you don't know they're from Iran.
No, don't ask.
So I don't know if that lack of knowledge protects you, but you definitely don't.
I hope it does.
You definitely don't want to find out. Just pay it. Just don't ask any questions, or better yet, have this third-party company go and do that on your behalf, so you have that layer of protection.
I think a lot of people just chat up their ransom person.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hey, man, what are you doing right now?
You do kind of have to.
What are you doing this weekend?
You got to do a little bit of due diligence to see if they're for real.
Yeah.
And if they can actually give you what they're paying.
They might have just deleted all your stuff, because that's happened a time or two.
So, and also, a lot of those ransomware people, they know it's risky to go into a prolonged conversation with you, so they'll give you a time limit. And what are you going to do? You got to pay it, right? WhatsApp is super popular, especially outside of the U.S. It's one of those things that they use from everything to, trading things, to dating, to lynching people in some parts of the world, which is sad. And they have a problem.
WhatsApp discovers a targeted surveillance attack. Because, yeah. Turns out WhatsApp can be co-opted to be turned into a surveillance tool on certain networks in certain countries.
Surprising no one.
Who wants that?
Starts with an F, I think.
Didn't Zuckerberg say something about making that encrypted end to end, and it's like going to be the
that's
most
supposed
secure
to be
thing
the
ever?
Facebook privacy push.
Yeah.
Everything goes encrypted end to end. I don't know when that's going to happen.
Didn't those kids use WhatsApp, the ones that were executed?
Oh, the Saudi Arabia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Starting not to have a lot of confidence in Mr. Zuckerberg's words.
I don't think they've done it yet. I think that's coming
Oh,
soon.
well, that's a perfectly...
That's better, yeah. Of course.
We can't go a week without having at least one breach into customer accounts, right? You thought you were going to get away? No, not this week.
Boost Mobile says that hackers broke into customer accounts. So hackers might, in the worst case scenario, Boost Mobile's not actually sure. The hackers might have your mobile number, your billing address, your password, your PIN, and your credit card details.
Gosh. Seems
like
like
a lot of
would,
info.
that would pretty much give them everything they needed, including two-factor, to ruin your life.
Now, it might just be that they've got your phone number and your address. We don't know yet. They're still looking into it.
But also it took them, 2 months to announce this?
Yeah.
What was the ruling about you have to report it? Is it 2 months?
It depends on what state you're in. Some states have a 72-hour. Like most states are adopting the law where it's like you gotta do a notice within, at least a preliminary notice within 72 hours.
But are they saying they just found this? I think they knew for 2 months.
No, yeah, they
right?
knew for
Yeah.
2 months. They didn't take action for a while either because they were like,
Well, what if it's fine though?
yeah.
Yeah.
They just stood there looking at the screen like, oh.
Oh, that's not good.
It's like, oh, no, these aren't hackers. This is some marketing company that we gave access to this data. It's like, oh, okay. Well, that was a close call.
Does the marketing company in China?
Oops. All right.
That's all
enough
we
of
got.
that.
Friday will be robots and nonsense, which, that should be fun.
It'll be a fun episode. Today's May 24th, and it's Friday, and it's Memorial Day weekend.
It's a terrible week. I'm having some coffee, and it's not enough. I'm probably actually on my way to Computex by now.
Yeah, you'll be gone.
It's Memorial Day weekend. The timing for Computex this year was really bad.
Well, they probably don't care about American holidays, right?
No, they don't.
Yeah.
Get your flowers. And you can pay respects to the people in PUBG that you kill. And thanks to AI, just based on your playstyle, where you go, how you loot, how you fight, how you engage, the AI knows how good you are.
AI predicts PUBG player placement from stats and rankings at the beginning of the match. So I was shocked that a pacifist type strategy where you basically just hide out until the end of the game, which is how we played, only has a 0.3% success rate.
That's really
Empirically,
surprising.
that checks out. 'Cause we were not successful.
Oh, we had a few wins under our belt.
The
we
winning
got-
tactic is just always be moving and always engage.
Run and gun.
We, I do think that when we would play with some of the Twitch lurkers and like Luke from Linus Tech Tips, we got first.
Our first win was with Luke, actually. He carried us hard.
Yeah.
I just want to mention that I was always for shooting people on sight.
But
And Krista was always like,
well,
no.
no, I wouldn't do it because you would want to shoot like all the way across the field, and I was like, we don't know how many other teams are in the vicinity, and we're going to have to run toward them when the circle comes in.
Shooting is fun, Krista, and shooting at other humans is even more fun.
But I like to win, even though we never won. And apparently this algorithm says we wouldn't have won.
If you're going to die anyway, don't die with a full magazine, right?
Well, that's what the
fine.
lightning round is for. Just immediately drop into Zarky and die.
And 20% of players die before even firing a shot. Or something like that.
That was 2%.
Or 2%?
I am the 2%.
And that's probably just the bots who are farming.
What?
Oh, that's
money.
true.
I thought it was.
sometimes you don't shoot.
I thought it was 2% for they move and stuff, or no, 2% for they don't move. But maybe I'm wrong.
Let's find
Let's
out.
re-skim it.
Let's spend. You know what? Let's spend some extra time.
29 attributes, 1.9 million things. Oh yeah,
2% died before taking a step.
there was one for shots as well. I thought
The
that was higher.
That would be harder, I think, because how else are you going to get past the fences if you don't tactical entrance by using your shotgun and your limited ammo to blast apart the fence?
Anyway,
Yeah,
no one cares about PUBG anymore.
I want
Regret.
to, but there's too many Chinese hackers in it now.
Damn those Chinese hackers.
Listen,
they've got
I'm
their own
also
version.
just bad, but
they're
they
not-
also shoot through walls.
When they're not infiltrating our tech infrastructure and ruining 5G, they're ruining our PUBG games.
Maybe that's what this is about. Maybe President Trump was just really upset. He kept dying to Chinese hackers,
You
and he's
think-
like, "I'm going to punish Huawei."
You think when he does quads and the other three guys are Secret Service, they'd probably be good at it, right?
Oh, they probably would. Well, I don't know.
Hand eye.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen with this president, but someday that's probably going to happen with the president of the U.S., and that's an exciting time. That's the president. Like, what a time to be alive.
But if you shoot at the president in video game avatar format,
Someone just tackles you in real
The
life.
helicopters are dispatched.
Robots. They do so much for us now. But what happens when a robot screws up? More importantly, who's to blame? That's the question that Bloomberg asks.
Bloomberg has this article with the title of Who to Sue When a Robot Loses Your Fortune. So this is a story about an investor who turned $20 million over to the algorithm, and the algorithm promptly lost it all.
It was actually way more than that. The algorithm lost $20 million out of like a 1.2 billion.
Ah.
So, but it lost that in a day. So this guy,
No human being would be that stupid.
he went to this billionaire and he was like, "Hey,
think.
I've got this amazing algorithm. It can out-trade all the hedge funds and quants and all that. Give me some money. Let me run it. Let me show you." And so he was like, "All right, here you go. Here's some money." He borrowed a lot of it from like Citibank or something. He lost $20 million in a day. Not
Oops.
good. So this guy is trying to sue, saying that the ability of the AI was misrepresented. The AI creator says, no, it's really good. We just had some bad luck. So when the AI, who's to blame? Can you go after him for that money? That's what this court action will figure out.
Well, if you can go after them, I think you ought to be able to go after the Silicon Valley companies that do things that are profoundly stupid and waste resources.
But how can you prove direct damages in those situations?
I don't think you'll be able to prove direct damages in this situation.
$20 million is pretty direct.
Well, I mean, if that
It's
is
just chump change.
if you invested a bunch of money in Facebook and then Facebook does something stupid, it seems the same.
I guess in both cases you have to presume risk in any kind of market, right? Like that's the first rule. Pop music. It's always been in our lives, or at least it's been in our lives since when do you think what was the first music to be considered pop music? Was that
Probably like in the 40s or 50s, right? When
I think it's got to be the 50s.
global connections started happening more and like people.
Staying Alive by the Bee Gees.
Yeah, that was considerably later.
Yeah, that was like in the 70s.
Yeah. But back in those days, I mean, if you think about it, like the early Beatles music was like basically written by children. It was like the stupidest, "She Loves Me, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah," over and over for the entire song. And we celebrate them as geniuses. So eventually they got jaded and started writing more, like gloomy and heartbreaky kind of music. Well, it turns out that seems to be the trend.
BBC Music says, "Is pop music really getting sadder and angrier?"
With the picture of Taylor Swift in the background.
I know,
Looking sad and
I know
angry.
nothing about music, but like, isn't the band Garbage kind of old? Like, weren't they popular because they were sad and angry?
Well, they were part of kind of a wave, like that was during the grunge era.
Okay, so there's
So-
more grunge than sad.
There was a lot of, there was
But
a lot
even
of
pop
sad and
music,
angry
though.
in
Yeah.
the grunge.
Can you be grunge and not sad and angry?
I would say
Would
probably
be
not. I
difficult,
can't think of any like happy grunge music.
Grunge, you usually wanted to be on heroin. That was the big thing. That was the
This is what it sounds like when you're not on heroin.
But pop music has been. I think
you're
this is
missing
true.
heroin. Also, I wouldn't call grunge pop music.
It's not
But-
at all. No.
I think the word pop here, they're using it loosely to being popular because they did incorporate rap into that. And they said that when rap came onto the scene, the angry score just went through the roof because rap is pretty angry. But they also looked at, like Taylor Swift and who's the Canadian kid that everybody hates?
Bieber.
Justin Bieber.
They had Adele, I think, mentioned in this article as
Right,
well.
and they said, even if you look at those compared to earlier music, they are very sad and angry in comparison.
Okay.
Because, like, back in the day, you were just doing the jitterbug, the Monster Mash, and the songs weren't about anything.
The
And
songs
now-
were, well, and like even just the music itself was pretty upbeat, but
Oh,
now that's not always true.
That's interesting that you say that because another algorithm looked at the structure of the music, and they also said that was, I don't know how they quantify that.
Well, they had
but-
people rate it. Like they said, what is it? What emotion does this song make you think of? And people rated it.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I think it's gotten better. If you look at it, I'm not weighting it toward modern taste. I don't think, because I would say the best period of music was the 60s and 70s. But that music is light years ahead of the trash we had in the 30s and 40s.
Definitely technically more complicated.
The Voice. I never watched any of The Voice. That was
you're
a
not missing out on
European
anything.
thing, right? Did we do The Voice in America?
Yeah, there's The Voice in America.
Okay. What was the one in Europe?
They do. Oh, shoot, I know this. It's Eurostar, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Europe's Got Talent.
But
No,
they
it's Eurostar. I think it's Eurostar.
they
I might be wrong.
really take that seriously because the competition between the countries is so much more intense.
No, Eurovision. That's it.
Yeah, they don't think like for us, state to state. I mean, we'll like make fun of each other, but we're kind of a cohesive unit. Whereas they have the same landmass with much heavier rivalries.
Yeah.
A French kid is going to win? No, we can't.
Exactly. Yeah. So Russia has their version of this, and this is a very like KGB communist flavored story about this.
So the BBC has this titled "Russian Bots Rigged Voice Kids TV Talent Show Results." So this was the article says that this girl, who is the daughter of a wealthy
She's a pop star.
Russian businessman,
And a pop star.
won this competition.
It was her mom that's famous.
Yeah. But both, like, I mean, let's be honest. She's stacked on both sides. Like, both of her parents are rich.
Right. She got 52% of the vote from sequential mobile phone numbers. So, a little suspicious.
They'll never notice.
It's fine.
Now, because this is a kid's show, they're not just going to like strip her title. They're just going to completely do it over and harden their call-in software against such attacks.
This looks suspicious.
Well,
Not gonna
what
count
if she wins again, though?
No.
Do you think, like, will people buy that? I don't know if I would.
I don't know, but I bet a lot of money was spent on that win, and they are not happy that it's going to get revoked.
What a strange children's talent shows. It's like, listen, my daughter can't be heartbroken if she's not talented enough to win this.
Oh, people will do anything for their kids. It's disgusting.
But that's such a minor thing for your child.
But no, it's like a huge, major. I bet that's a huge show over there.
It probably is, but like, I mean, if you're already rich, can't you just buy a record
But
deal?
here's the thing: you're a pop star, and the husband is like a famous businessman, and your daughter, she ain't that great. Let's face it. We don't want to say it, but we all know it, and yet we want her to. You always want your kids to do better than you, right? But she doesn't have the talent. So what do?
Not this.
Yeah.
That's the only
Seems like there's a
choice.
lot of other options they could have gone to before
either that or have her
a Russian
killed.
botnet.
The old polonium. Ow, my liver.
Try again. Oh, Sweden. Sweden is, were they the ones that did the online voting? Or was that Switzerland?
I think you're thinking of Switzerland, yeah.
I always get them confused. They should change their name.
Engagement
pretty
challenge. Tell Ryan why that should never happen.
They're pretty different.
No, I'm just the word. I'm not saying that the countries are the same. I'm saying the word is. Anyway, Sweden is on the forefront of driverlessness.
Driverless electric truck starts deliveries in Swedish public roads. So, yeah, look
And
at
it
that.
looks really cool. Well,
As you skip
the
to the
video
part
was
of the video.
pre-playing.
There
Look
you
at
go.
that thing.
That's crazy. That's Reuters TV. So,
They should have painted a face on the front.
why is it just...
What a wasted opportunity.
This actually is a really interesting piece of technology. You should check it out. It's not from one of the big names.
It's not, yeah, I was like waiting to see who sponsored it, but it's just them.
Now, the thing about this is, here's some cool footage from inside of it. Or actually, that's a bank of monitors looking through a camera because there is no inside. But it's only going a very limited run in an industrial part of town from like a factory to a warehouse. The same run over and over.
Yeah, it's basically an industrial park. I don't think that the roads there are even incorporated. Like, I guess that they said it's public roads, but it seems like it would be an industrial
They
park.
might have different rules. I mean, there's a passenger car behind it there, so I missed it. Anyway, still kind of cool. It's loaded. I think it's 26 tons. I don't know how much of that is storage capacity.
This would be like an automated delivery truck between Walmart and Lowe's here in the U.S. because those are almost always located adjacent to each other or in the same shopping complex.
And they say that 60% cost versus diesel with a driver. I don't know if that's like how of a timeline do you have to run before you get that savings, I wonder.
Probably less than a year if it's 60%.
So, hey, pretty cool. Christy, you say paint a face on it, but how horrible would that be if it hit somebody and there was like blood and viscera.
And it's like smiling down at their dead corpse.
There's a company that wants to turn people, that wants to give everybody their own AI avatar. And in order to
This article's weird.
publicize that, they went to this guy at Gizmodo and offered to make him one, and it's really creepy looking.
Which one is the real person?
I think it's pretty
His
obvious.
face is like kind of waxy and the eyes look a little glazed over. Like
Oh, it's the guy on the right.
That's the AI.
the one on the right is the one on the AI, right?
Obviously, yeah.
Yeah, that's why I was like, yeah, that's what I was saying. He looks like all waxy and glassy eyed and
Yeah. So this is a really long article. He was very excited about his AI, but
he was like,
basically-
oh, when I take trips, my kids can interact with my AI, and I was like, oh, that's so sad.
But that's like gonna horrify your kids. It's
Yeah.
uncanny valley. Now, last week we talked about. So here's like they made him do facial expressions to train it on how to be him. And then last week we talked about these K-pop stars. So these girls are real, but they did this video and they used this same technology to do AI versions of themselves singing in the song in the video.
Neat.
Isn't that what the Gorillas did like 20 years ago?
Wasn't that animated?
It was animated, but it's the same sort of concept.
No,
Same concept.
it's not at all, because the AI is actually singing in some of the chorus. It's
Oh, I
like
didn't realize that.
backing them up with AI version of them. The other cool thing about this, or interesting thing about this, is it doesn't like try to synthesize your voice entirely. It has like a baseline voice. It's kind of like RPGs, where it has like 50 voices to choose from, and you choose the one that matches you most. Then it takes your voice and kind of fudges over that. And it does the same thing with your body type.
I was just imagining the HAL 9000 singing Daisy, and it's like, this is where we've come. We've come this
I
far.
think these are a little more advanced.
Yeah.
Slightly more. Japan has a lot of drones. You can get stuff delivered by drone in Japan. I think the police use them, right?
Yeah.
And drone heavy. And so they've adopted this law. It's never happened yet, which is kind of surprising, but they were going to get ahead of it.
Drone laws. Japan prepares to ban flying unmanned aerial vehicles under the influence of alcohol. So unlike the U.S., where we just banned it completely in a lot of places, Japan's like, well, you can, just not while you're drunk.
It seems like a good law.
So
I can get behind that.
there actually were not very many incidents around drones last year. The article has some, I guess it's 79 incidents. But they talk about like what those incidents were. Japan is a surprisingly well-behaved country.
Yeah, well, a
Being pretty similar to each other probably helps with that.
couple of nukes will do that.
Oh, that was dark.
there come the
Happy
downloads.
Memorial Day.
Amazon. Amazon, we constantly do Amazon robot stories because they are really rolling out cool robot after cool robot. The last one we talked about was the one that unloaded the trucks. Very neat. But every Amazon robot story, they're very careful to say, this is not going to destroy jobs. Don't worry. I know it seems like we're eliminating humans from this process, but it's not going to destroy jobs. And they can't even say that about this one.
No.
Exclusive. Amazon rolls out machines that pack orders and replace jobs. So, yeah, Amazon is going to do packing now. Like, no, wasn't it? Whenever we covered the last Amazon robot story, didn't we say that you should worry when the packing robots come? Like, wasn't that the hallmark of oh my gosh, everything is on fire now? Robots.
So yeah, you can see this is graphing the robots in the Amazon warehouse. Looks like an exponential growth to me.
But they're not getting rid of jobs, Brian. That's what they told
That's
us.
quite a curve. Yeah. So
What are they doing if they're not?
the
If those people still work there, what are they doing?
but like you say, one of the big things was picking them up is hard to do without damaging the items. And the other thing is the humans were uniquely equipped to choose the correct box that it goes into. Because, I mean, how many people... We've all gotten an Amazon box that was like 5 times larger than the item needs to be just because it's oddly shaped. And apparently this robot can do that. So...
Like that feather toy you ordered for
Oh,
your
yeah.
cats.
Yeah, I
It
got
came
it.
in this
I got it
giant box.
There will never be an Amazon packing robot that can deal with the feather toy.
Probably not. That'd be tough to pick up. But what Amazon is saying to kind of, put some kind of spin on this, and they're like, well, we're not going to fire anybody, but people quit all the time, and we're just not going to replace them.
What we're going to do is just make the conditions worse and worse and worse until everyone just quits.
Oh, are you pregnant? Oh, I'm sorry. You've been replaced by a robot.
We're going to extend the time they're not allowed to pee until no human can withstand it.
It's like one of those terrible YouTube videos where it's like $100,000 to the last person to go to the bathroom. One of them dies of sepsis.
That was a radio promotion.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, I should drink like, how many gallons
That
of
was
water?
wee for a wee. It was every 10 minutes you had to drink.
Oh,
And then the last one standing got a wee.
Wow.
Yeah, wee for a wee. Tesla. We talked about their little fire problem. And now they have yet another problem because one of those crashes that happened recently, they've done the investigation. Not good news.
Tesla's autopilot was engaged when the Model 3 crashed into a truck, a report states. So this is the second case where it's like a tractor trailer that's across the highway at like a 90-degree angle or is turning or whatever. So we're, big trailer, wheels on left and right. The car can see under the trailer. And so what happens is the Model 3 tries to drive under the truck, it shears the roof off.
And apparently that camera system, because most trailers are white, can confuse white trailer with open sky. So it's like, hey, rolling along, there's nothing on the road ahead. So let's just cruise right into it, and then...
So what you're saying is Musk needs better high dynamic range sensors because then it can tell the difference between sky and truck.
everyone needs to just paint their trucks. Simple.
Right.
Makes it easier for us.
Let's just repaint all the trucks in the world after we rebuild all the buildings.
Yeah. To be energy efficient.
I think Musk would probably do that. Do we have it? Oh, we don't have the story, but do we have the $300 million story? It's kind of related to this. Musk is doing their own AI chip to solve problems like this. He's spending $300 million, but he also was like, man, Tesla needs to be micromanaged financially or it's going to go out of business. And it's like, don't design your own chip. If you don't have any money, that's dumb. Sorry.
We'll just borrow it.
It's kept the business afloat this far.
This story
I don't like this.
is one of my favorite because it is so unnecessarily creepy.
It's a solution looking for a problem. This robotic finger attachment for your smartphone will gently caress your hand.
Can you really call this a solution?
Exactly. What is this? Who is this for?
Okay, it can
Yeah, this is what I wanted. It's like,
do that. Why does it need? Who needs this?
For those of you who are listening in a podcast form, it's literally a robotic finger that you plug into your phone and it can drag itself along.
it's, yeah.
The flesh toned one is
yeah,
really
the
weird.
flesh one. But they don't show the best part. I think it's in the video.
I think there's
Where
a lot of
it's,
weird parts in the video.
where it's just touching the hand.
Yeah, it reaches down and caresses your wrist.
The light is probably like the most useful thing it does.
I really don't like it.
It's got all that haptic feedback, and I think maybe it's up.
It has different fingertips.
Oh, there you go. Why? Why would you want that?
I couldn't even watch the whole video because I got so freaked out.
No.
That's like the thing that you fear when you're in a dark room. It's just like a real gentle touch. Hey, buddy.
You know what? Maybe I should get this because this would probably wake me up in the morning. Like this thing just coming over and like, hey, time to wake up.
Where are you from, sailor?
That's going to be really hard on your heart being constantly woken up by an adrenaline-fueled terror.
Yeah, so that thing is available if you would ever want one.
I wonder if we could get a sample for Level 1 a review, and it's like, oh, yeah.
Oh, we should sell them in our store.
Yeah, so they do talk about you can control it on one end, and then so you could have two people could have a robot finger, and one person could control their robot finger to affect your robot finger. So maybe, I mean, it's obvious we could go much lower, but we won't. This is good news for me, but NPR seems to think it's a bad thing.
NPR says that the U.S. births have fallen to a 32-year low in 2018. The CDC says birth rate is in a record slump.
So 2% lower, I think, is what this article said.
My reason for this is, or like my suspicion of why this is one, things don't really look good for the future. Two, In America, you have to work like all the time. There's no vacation days. Nobody has time for anything.
Well, they mentioned that though, like we're coming out of a recession, but are we?
No.
It's
Yeah,
mostly
I think
like,
that's just what they want you to think. but I
It's
don't think
all
we
like-
really are.
It's the lull before the darkness.
it's stock buybacks and hiding inflation while raising prices or not raising prices but reducing what you're given. So it's like, hey, potato chips haven't gone up in price; they've gone down in quantity. So that's what we do.
Jars of peanut butter have not increased in price, but they've gone from 32 ounces to 24 ounces.
Also, Krista, time to get on the ball. Clock is ticking. Now, are you going to do mother-baby yoga when you have your baby?
No.
No?
I hated yoga. I actually took well, it was part of a gym class, but I did a yoga course when I was in college.
But look how much bonding is happening in this picture.
Those babies don't care. And listen, the last thing I want to do after I've given birth is stretch more than I have to.
You will be doing a lot of stretching during that process.
Yeah, I ain't about yoga. Not for me.
This story, this is one of those stories where you read it and you think to yourself, this is how humanity dies.
That's how I felt the whole time reading it. And I was like, they make it sound like a good thing, but I don't know.
The Guardian has this article, is that the world's first living organism with fully redesigned DNA has been created. So, long story short, they took E. coli and they reprogrammed, because there's different codons that program for the same gene. So they just did a search and replace across E. coli's gene to only use the one of the possible codes for a protein. And it worked.
So here's my question. And maybe it was answered and I just kind of looked over it when I read the article. But, was there a reason they picked E. coli? Because that seems like that one could be dangerous.
But
This is the one they use for everything.
it's pretty simple, yeah. So they're used to working on it. But I agree with you. It's like, hey, guys, we're going to recreate this from scratch with our crazy god powers. What should we use? Let's go for a common human poison.
Ebola. Let's try that one next.
It's used for making diabetic medicine and the other stuff. But
I
interesting.
didn't know. That was interesting.
But if it goes rogue,
If the all of that is interesting too, but they also said the shape of the organism was different after they did the search and replace, which suggests there's a reason for having two sets of codons that code for the same protein. Because theoretically, if it's coding for the same protein, shouldn't it be an identical organism? It was apparently longer and slower.
yeah. I don't think we should be doing that. But who knows? Maybe something good will come up.
I accidentally created the Andromeda strain. Whoops.
This
Probably
story, we like to do space stories once in a while. That's not necessarily technologically related, but usually there's some kind of technology involved in getting there. Here's the thing. I include this story because I love this word.
The moon is shrinking. It's causing powerful moonquakes.
Moonquake. Sounds like a breakfast cereal to me.
I would eat moonquakes.
Yeah.
It's a shredded wheat with some kind of powdered sugar.
Nah, it'd be little moons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or moon marshmallows.
Could be good.
Yeah.
So the moon is it's basically cooling down in
And
its
shrinking.
core. So they described it as like a grape drying out and becoming a raisin. And when that happens, the folds on the surface cause earthquakes. What do you think this will mean for Jeff Bezos' moon colony?
Mild excitement every now and again.
There's a breach and, the horrible, all your oxygen comes running out into space. It's fine.
Maybe with the low gravity, you could just put everything on legs with some movement to them. And then when it moonquake, you just,
Did the article
bounce
mention
around.
how, what would the Richter scale, whatever that would be?
5.
Oh, that's actually pretty strong.
Yeah, pretty decent moonquakes.
That's you definitely feel that.
But in low gravity, do your structures fall? Maybe.
I mean, they would fall just really slowly, maybe.
Well, but they're tethered to the ground, so I guess the shaking is the same no matter what, right?
Yeah.
I guess because of the reduced gravity, if we built them to Earth standards, they would be incredibly rigid. So, the entire structure may be able
Too
to
brittle?
withstand any kind of craziness like that, because it's just
Well, are you going to be building vertically on the moon? I think we're going to do ranch-style houses on the moon.
probably underground for radiation shielding.
They should be Earth ships and call them moon ships.
Christy, did you played Pokemon as a child, right?
I did. I liked the Game Boy games.
So,
Well, this article's about you.
and you have this, where Wendell and I we do not have this.
No.
No. Brain scans reveal a Pokemon region in adults who played as kids. So it turns out that this guy was doing a brain study, and he thought it was super handy that the little tiny black and white pictures from the Game Boy version of Pokemon would be perfect to see what's going on with people's brains. And it turns out that people that played a lot of Pokemon have a specific region of the brain dedicated to that.
Well, if you watched the TV show as a child, as I did, and I read the books as well, there was they would do like a segment that was like, who's that Pokemon? And it was literally just a silhouette of the Pokemon. You had to guess, and then you'd watch the commercials. And then when they came back, they'd tell you what it was.
He did that to screen participants to make sure they weren't Poke posers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, this region of your brain, if you're thinking, well, okay, what about people who don't have Pokemon region? It's used to identify small animals. So, makes sense,
That's
right?
kind of sad, isn't it?
You've exchanged small animal storage capacity for Pokemon, Krista.
It's sad. Well, because we did a trivia thing the other night, and like Pokemon was a category. And I was like, it's weird how many of these I remember, even though I haven't watched the show in 20 years.
Now, this story, again, I mean, this is about technology, but I just included this because if you work in the corporate world, you will encounter this human being and can confirm that it is ruining the world.
Strong opinions loosely held might be the worst idea in tech. So this guy talks about how when playing pool, if he was terrible at playing pool, he would immediately take corrective action. And
Well, he was talking about betting.
well, yeah.
So he would handicap himself in a game of 9-ball. If he knew the other guy was really good, he wouldn't just be like, I'm really good. He'd be like, no. You got to give me 4 games to your 1 if we're going to bet. Because he didn't want to lose money. So he didn't have all the certainty.
But in technology, it doesn't work that way because people will make terrible decisions up front, and it's not always apparent that that was a terrible decision until the end of the project, which might be months or years later. And there's no introspection.
And they will just blindly throw all of their support. So this guy claims the best thing to do, and I've actually, I do this, but I don't consciously do it, is give a percentage of confidence
Yeah.
to your assertions.
Yeah.
And then when you come up against this personality and they throw out one of those like, absolute, we must do it this way, we must use this technology, you respond with, are you 100% certain about that?
I usually like to get that in writing. So that way,
Yeah.
6 months from now when they launch the project and it's a disaster, I'm like, hey, remember when you said this? And then you're not allowed to come back to those meetings.
But a very interesting way of quantifying the doubt and certainty in the technology world, which you need to do.
How do you get past how does someone become so confident that they don't feel like an imposter? Like, I've been doing this for a while now, and I still get the little bit of the imposter syndrome.
That's the Dunning-Kruger, and
Yeah.
we're dealing with the people at the left end who have the absolute certainty.
It's not a fun time.
I love this story when anti-bullying results in bullying.
Boy sent home from anti-bullying day at Auckland High School for not wearing enough pink. So you could wear the school uniform or pink, and he wore this shirt, which has kind of a lot of pink in it.
It's like a soft pink, like a tie-dye.
I mean, if we're going to let's go with the percentage. I'm going to say that's like 35 to 40% pink, assuming that the front is the same pattern.
Seems like that would be pink enough. And the principal said it was pink enough, but a teacher said no. and he had to
Teacher
go
says,
Don't they have other things to worry about?
no,
Like-
Krista, this is anti-bullying. It's important.
Well, I'm thinking even just like I had uniform or not uniform, but it was like a dress code when I was in
No,
middle school.
That's the point. So you could either wear your uniform or you could wear pink for anti-bullying.
But I'm saying when I was like in middle school, like the teachers would get so bent out of shape if you like forgot to wear a belt, and it's like, do we really need to spend time on this instead of, actually doing the lesson?
You have to stamp out that individuality. So you'll raise a good little socialist.
But I forgot my belt. They used to make you tie a string around your waist.
Krista,
if
you must
forgot a
not
belt.
be different. Independent thought is not part of the public school system.
Independent thought only just gets you in trouble.
Weird socks became like a sign of individuality when I was in middle school.
You wear flamboyant socks. I've noticed that about you.
I do. I don't match my socks most of the time because I don't care.
But I'm saying like they're not just white socks. You have crazy socks.
I do, yeah.
Is that?
It's
Are you
some
still
weird
rebelling?
It probably is some sort of weird holdover from middle school where we weren't allowed to. You had to wear khakis and a polo, or a turtleneck. That's all you could wear.
Well, speaking of weird rebellion,
A man has been detained in China for giving dogs illegal names. I missed this one somehow.
I can't pronounce.
I can't. They're words for government officials, like types of government workers. It's not even like a particular name of a person, but just a type of worker.
One is civil servant and one is police. So he basically named his dogs like cop and bureaucrat. And they found out about it and went ballistic. He did jail time.
Wow.
Well, and then everyone else, I guess, like on Chinese social media, they're like, "Is there a law about this? Like, are you not
Yeah.
allowed? What other names are we not allowed to use?" But of course, there's no answer
Winnie
for
the
that.
Pooh. You cannot name your dog Pooh.
Oh, wow. That would be.
Engagement challenge.
What kind of dog is that? I like that dog.
He looks like maybe some sort of bully breed. Like
Look at that. Look at those paws. He's going to be a monster.
He's gonna be a big old boy, the bestest boy.
But
What
yeah,
is he sitting on?
An old mattress,
it looks
obviously.
like a table or something. I don't know. Anyway, they didn't, like, the crime wasn't naming your dogs. They came up with something else. But it's clear you don't make fun of the cops. And I mean, would you be offended if somebody named a dog after your profession?
No, that'd be a terrible name for a dog designer. But
Yeah. Remember, I think the most lovable rodent we've ever had on the Level 1 News was, of course, Pebbles.
the support hamster.
The emotional support
Pebbles.
hamster. Yeah. But Kevin the squirrel giving Pebbles a run for his money.
This article is hilarious. You should
Kevin
read
is
it if
still
you can.
alive.
Kevin is a she also.
Kevin is living the dream. So this is Seattle's cheese cracker addicted squirrel is traumatizing kids.
This is worth reading.
So this squirrel will absolutely terrorize you looking for Cheez-Its or the little fish crackers.
It likes
But-
anything cheese flavored.
When you say terrorize, it doesn't attack people.
No, it
it
does.
just-
It comes up in people's like carriages and stuff and takes the snacks and like
But I'm
jumps
saying
on the kids.
it's not like biting them or attacking them or anything. It's just looking for crackers.
Yeah.
And
But the way people talk about it in the article, they're like, "I can't go back to the park."
well, that's the kids, which
Even the adults.
But I think, like, what kind of, as a child, if there was a squirrel
That wanted to be
that
in my
I could
hand,
just hang out with, I couldn't stockpile enough Cheez-Its
Yeah.
to go. But these kids are like, I don't want to go with the scary squirrel. Like, what kind of horrible children are being raised in this country?
I don't know. I'd be upset if the squirrel tore holes in my backpack and opened my lunch looking for
No,
Cheez-Its.
but see, that's why you bring preemptive Cheez-Its.
As an offering for peace, so you can go on the swing unaccosted.
Let's just, physical limitations. There's only so many Cheez-Its the squirrel can eat.
It's like, I can't go to the park today. I'm out of Cheez-Its.
Is there like an altar above like the tree the squirrel lives in that you
Also,
deposit?
how about an enterprising kid sells Cheez-Its at the park entrance for the other kids coming in for, anti-Kevin fodder.
That's not like something my
But
fiance
they also,
would do.
they mentioned that Kevin will allow her stuff to be picked up. And
Yeah, she apparently likes to be held. And
Again, a young me, like a
Would've loved
6-year-old
that.
me, I would have been, every day I would want to go to this park and hang out with Kevin. So I don't see the problem. It's Seattle. That's
You must
Can
answer,
you even go to the park in Seattle? It rains 90% of the time there.
you must answer me these questions 3. It's like, where's my Cheez-It?
Where's my Cheez-It? Where's my Cheez-It?
questions 2 and 3 are, don't make me repeat myself, bitch. Internet challenges. They're always stupid, but they keep happening over and over. And you got to wonder, are people just sitting around like, oh man, I want to come up with the next, because you don't get any recognition for it.
No one knows who did
It's
it.
just for the lulz, right? So anyway, there's one now in Austria that is more bizarre than the rest.
Austria has warned against a cow-kissing internet challenge. There's an app for that.
Yeah.
It's supposed to raise money for charity, kind of like the Ice Bucket Challenge here in the U.S. But the issue is people are breaking into like paddocks and stuff to try and do this, and the cows don't always like that, especially if they have calves nearby.
There was actually one case where cows trampled somebody, and the farmer had to pay like $750,000.
But I don't think that was because of the challenge.
No,
I think
that's
that
just-
predated the challenge. But it does point out, also, if there's a bull,
Yeah.
you
It's
do
bad news,
not
son.
want to mess with a bull. And bulls are very territorial. So the Austrian authorities are saying, don't take part in this, which makes a lot of sense. Probably shouldn't. But people are. Also, talk about blaming the gun.
The cows,
the
yeah.
farmer for what a cow.
Yeah.
That's, yeah.
It's like, oh, you broke into the paddock and you spooked the cows and you got trampled.
So you trespassed and harassed my property.
Isn't the saying literally, if you mess with the bull, you get the horn? Isn't that like I don't know.
So let's review. Modern children, be afraid of squirrels who want crackers, but seek out giant mammals that can crush you.
Yes. Yes.
Krista, how excited are you? I thought about you when I saw this story.
I don't really care, though I did find it funny, the source of this article.
CBD potatoes.
Idaho scientists developed first CBD-infused potato. This is from, I think it's the Boise Times.
Of course, it's Idaho.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not necessarily like you eat the potato and you get the CBD. I guess that would still be
You
true.
could probably do it, yeah.
But you can synthesize the CBD oil, or extract it, I guess it's not actually synthesized, from potatoes, which grow faster and have a higher concentration than actual marijuana.
Wow.
So we could be getting our CBD oil purely from potatoes. Now here's the problem. These potatoes also contain THC, which makes them illegal in Idaho.
But it's fine. It's potatoes. They'll never guess.
No, they moved the lab to Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Because in Idaho, over 3% is illegal, and they couldn't get it under 3%.
Laws changing in Idaho in 3.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. But anyway, just injecting. Of course, we've seen CBDs being added to snack foods. And what was the other thing?
There's a t-shirt shop here in town that I saw that says like t-shirts and CBD oil. It's like, why would I need a CBD oil?
When I want one, I always want the other.
Yeah, it's like,
Obviously.
oh, I need a t-shirt design, but
Yeah.
also.
It's like, I never want to get just fries or just a burger. I always want those together.
Mm-hmm.
Also true for CBD oil and t-shirts.
Or CBD oil and literally anything else.
Like potatoes.
In tragic news this week, one of the most iconic internet memes has passed.
Internet sensation Grumpy Cat dies at 7. Isn't there a whole host of Grumpy Cats though? Like
No, I think this is
she
the
had
original.
a bunch of kittens.
But she had dwarfism and some other, an underbite, like a severe underbite. She was not a healthy cat.
No,
Yeah,
it's
she died of a
surprising
urinary
she-
tract infection.
So
it's very sad.
I don't know that her children will necessarily have the same look.
So bad.
I wasn't a big fan of Grumpy Cat, and I guess it's just because like I didn't want to think of a cat being this miserable.
Yeah.
But you could never tell if Grumpy Cat was enjoying life. And they traveled around with Grumpy Cat a lot. And if she was as unhealthy as they say, was that the best thing? Could she have made 10 years if not?
Not for all the traveling.
Yeah.
You know what cat I'm really going to be sad to see pass? Maru.
Yeah.
The cat that likes to get in boxes in Japan.
I think Mario's like 10 years old.
He's probably got, at least another 5 years?
I mean, if you look at the conditions those cats live in and the care she takes of them, I think he could make 18, 19 easy. Although he is very big.
Yeah, he's a big old boy.
But yeah, that will be tragic when we lose Maru. And it's also tragic to lose Grumpy Cat. Sad.
Rip. Speaking of losing things, watch the internet lose its shit. Actually, by this point, it would have already lost it, probably.
Part of me wants to say, don't put spoilers in the comments, but I know by saying that,
Someone's
I'm just
going to.
guaranteeing that they're doing it. So
You probably won't be able to read them.
I'm just not going to read them this week.
Game of Thrones fan petition for final season do-over has snowballed.
I believe it's at 1 million signatures.
A lot of people don't like the last season of Game of Thrones. I haven't watched any of it, and I don't even care.
I care, but I haven't watched any of it.
I've watched it and I've enjoyed the memes. At this point, I'm enjoying people's reactions more than I'm
Spicy
enjoying
memes.
the show.
Well, you don't watch the show. Don't pretend that you
Listen, I won a trivia category in it the other night, so
So-
Go ahead.
compared to book readers, so Wikipediaing it clearly worked.
But obviously they rushed, right? I mean, I haven't seen it, but that seems to be the everybody's complaint.
Well,
They tried to cram too much, and the big thing is, it's obvious that once they didn't have his books to fall back to, they were not able to craft a story.
It's draped in haste and carelessness. We'll say that.
So now they say they want it done over by somebody who can do it. Wouldn't the best thing to do is just let him finish
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then come back?
I
Although
imagine
the actors might be dead by then.
Yeah, I imagine that this is maybe more to send a message to people who are looking to hire the writers in the future. Like,
But those two guys have written so many TV shows, so many great TV shows. If you look at their history,
what have they written?
that DB Wise, I've seen that name like a billion times.
Didn't they write like the Wolverine movie that was widely panned?
I've seen those names on other big TV shows. I'm fairly
I think
certain.
one of them worked on Lost. I mean, what does that say? They're
We'll
trust
see.
fund kids.
I don't know. I mean, let's say they never get hired again. You think maybe they made a lot of money from Game of Thrones? And
Yeah,
that'd
they're
be
probably
okay
well.
anyway?
I think aren't they? They're moving on to Star Wars, so that's why they wanted to rush through it because they wanted to be done.
Wait a minute. They're doing the next big Star Wars movie?
Yeah, I think they're doing a trilogy.
A new trilogy?
Yeah.
So you think maybe they did this on purpose to get out of it?
Yes. That's the consensus I've read in all of the salt threads.
That
Wow.
would be that'd be bad. Oh, why would you do that? Because that's got to be the most popular TV show since like Breaking Bad, right?
Yeah.
So that's a legacy.
Yeah.
Oops.
I can't wait for you to watch it because I want to know what you think about it. But
I'm gonna pretend I really like it just to make it.
well, no, I don't think you can though.
I never took the SATs. Did you?
I did.
SAT was not common here in Kentucky. Usually people take the ACT.
Yeah, that's what I took. But the SAT, this, of course, everybody probably already knows what we're talking about. They are not changing it, but they are adding something. And the thing that they're adding, a little controversial.
SAT exam to give students an adversity score and bid to level the playing field. So this is another metric or signal that, colleges you're applying to will have some idea of, how terrible your situation is. I think this is prompted from the stories of like, so-and-so had a 1.8 GPA in high school, but then once they had a bed to sleep in the dorm, they were a 4.0 student. And that happens, but I think that's the exception rather than the norm.
Yeah, and
Now,
yeah. Sorry, continue.
but go ahead.
No, I don't know. You go.
No, I insist.
No, I forgot now what I was going to say because
I would love to know my adversity score because we grew up in a very poor place, and
I think yours wouldn't be that bad.
I don't know.
Well, yours might be one though. I don't think Ryan's would be.
Yeah, well, as white males, we probably
Yeah.
You had 2-parent household, like parents worked, like
But I'm just out of curiosity, I would like to see what that number is. Now they factor in if you come from another country. There's like a list of countries that are low.
on the oppression scale.
Automatic, like, wow, that you're even doing this is amazing.
And your parents' income, like you mentioned, is part of it. I think the ranking of your high school. Did you see the Eastern Kentucky High School? So Kentucky is not a great place to go for education in high school overall, but Eastern Kentucky, really bad. But then they have this standardized testing every year, and this last year, Eastern Kentucky did amazing. They cheated. Yeah, they cheated.
Maybe
The sun shines bright in my old Kentucky home.
The sun is bright. The students aren't.
Maybe it was like if something like that happens, it's okay. Like if your school system is so dysfunctional, the state takes over. That's an automatic maximum score.
That's where I was going with that. You think those kids would get a high ranking?
Automatic maximum score. like we don't know.
My teachers literally changed my answers after I took the test.
I didn't even spell my name right.
So yeah, but this does introduce the idea that equality accepts different equality for everybody.
I feel like this would set you up to fail. Because, when you get to college, they're not going to take into account your background that much. They're just going to be like, you need to get this grade in this class and produce these papers.
Let's see, that goes back to what Wendell was talking about. So the idea is once you get to college, you will no longer be held back by these factors. But I don't think that's true most of the time.
Most of the cases, yeah.
I mean, it's actually even more challenging because you have to not only do the work of everybody else, but also catch up to where they are, which an even smaller percentage of people, like for some people that might have been okay in different circumstances, by the time college rolls around, it's already too late.
But if I'm running a college, you know what I see when I look at this? I see a lot of getting paid tuition, but not having to deal with those students because they're going to fail out after a semester.
Oh, yeah.
Woo, free money.
Yeah.
Although, I mean, I guess the student loans survive bankruptcy and all that kind of
They
stuff,
do.
but the reality is you're not going to get paid.
But does the school assume that risk? Isn't that a third party?
I think it's the federal government that
Yeah,
assumes that
exactly.
risk.
Yeah.
So if I'm a school, what do I care?
And that's why
And
the college loan bubble is a thing.
don't worry, because Elizabeth Warren's going to get rid of that.
I don't think that's true.
Yeah.
I think that she's going to say that so she gets elected.
Her and Bernie together with their socialism magic are going to eliminate all that debt.
And then
All right.
And
everyone else.
that's it for the Level 1 news this week. I'm going to Computex next week, so woohoo!
We'll be at the office crying.
The video schedule is going to be super messed up.
Well, the news will be out on time, but yeah, the Computex stuff will be weird. Anyway, enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.